Hey, how you doing, everybody? Let's see, we're live now. Okay, we're off and running. I should turn my chair. Don't you love it if there's a live stream has the title of the subject matter, and then they don't talk about the subject for like an hour? We should do that, or maybe sometimes they don't ever talk about the subject matter. We should do that today. How you doing, everybody? Hey, Clay, how you doing? Saw you in there. Newsies is the goat. I've never seen Newsies. I gotta watch Newsies. I would watch a David Lynch musical. I would so do that. Hi, Jack Ripper. How you doing? All right. So I guess we're going to talk. Let's just jump into it. Because I hate those streams where they talk about the subject matter and they forget to do it. So by the way, I was working on a series that I want to do that I thought would be easier to do, because we used to do live critiques on the show. And I thought those are really useful. A lot of people, I think, really like them, but they need to kind of be divorced from the live streams, because live streams is not everybody's cup of tea. I mean, live streams are people that like to just hang out and listen for a long time. They're not designed for people that just kind of randomly going through YouTube and watching random stuff. So I wanted to separate them out. I got myself a big gulp today because I'm going to be here for a little bit. I wanted to separate them out and do their own thing. So I had this art tablet that I bought a long time ago. And the idea was I could use my pen tool. I could draw all over it and like point things out and stuff like that. It comes in handy, but so I did record the first one to see how it would go, and I need to edit that. And I had to figure out my workflow and all that, and I think I got it kind of figured out. But now I just gotta sit down and edit them, and hopefully I'll release one this week. I already have another video shot. Is this shirt? This is a denim jacket, by the way. That's what this guy is. Hello, Alexandros Sipsidis. How you doing? So that's why you're seeing this here, because I haven't taken it down yet. By the way, if you're interested in getting these little tablets, I recommend that this is called X Pen. Not a sponsor. I wish they would. No one sponsors me. I'm untouchable. No. X Pen. As far as like the quality, it's, the Wacom is like the highest end. That's what everyone professional. That's what a Mac is, right? This is more like the PC version. This is for cheaper people. I believe this is like $150, $180. It wasn't too bad. It's not too bad. 1980 by 1920 by 1080 screen. It's powered completely on USB, so that's nice. And then you can just draw on it and do. I have this one, and I have a larger one at home that I use. But this is more the one I take with me to, like, on a laptop. I can work on it just to plug out. I'm not trying to. I think XP Pen probably makes the best what I've seen so far, at least what I bought. Buyer's reinforcement or whatever it is. So that's what that is. If you're wondering, have I skipped around enough? Am I not? Have I teased the subject just enough? How do you do that? I always love the Madden football pen video. So the other thing, we're still going to tease the topic, we're going to stretch this out as long as we possibly can. Let's do this thing, right? I downloaded this program called Epic Pen. Now, Epic Pen, there's a paid version, it's a pro version of that for like $24 a year. And basically, let's see if I can I do it? I don't think I have well, I can do this. I can add an input. I can show it to you. Why not? Let's do it live. Do it live! Let's just do it live, man. Do it live. So I'm going to do a local ND screen capture. Let's say screen 1, okay. And then I don't think I have an Epic Pen loaded up here. Let's make sure Epic, not EpiPen, Epic Pen. All right, so I'm going to go over to this is the screen here that I'm working off of here. And so here's a little Epic Pen thing, and actually I need to do it on the other screen, don't I? Shoot. Hold on, let's go back. I'm just stretching this as long as I can go. Let's see how long we can talk about the topic without actually talking about the topic at hand. I'm just trying to avoid. No, I'm not. Display 2. Okay. All right, cool. And then I'm going to fade to that's my secondary screen that's on there. I'm going to switch it to the pen tool. And I can just draw. Let's say going on down here, you got a dime defense going in, and then the quarterback's going to play back here. He's going to take the ball. He's going to toss it all the way over here, and then all of a sudden he's going to round out here, and he's going to come back a little bit like that. All right, that was terrible. John, you're an awful, horrible human being. Let's delete that right away. Hopefully, you guys, if you guys have just been listening and not watching, good. Put it that way. That was an old joke. I think it was a Mad TV joke that they did that joke. All right. I think you will, Cole says, I think you will have a lot more people tuning if you just have it with all those screens. You know, all the basically the what you call it, the view from the controller screen, huh? Yeah, that's there you go. All right, have I stalled long enough? Hardcore Motor says musicals, really? Yes, musicals. We'll talk about it. So, all right. So the new Disney offered up the new Peter Pan trailer. I'm not going to show it to you because I don't want to get my channel demonetized. I don't want to get the stream demonetized. I watched it yesterday, and it didn't. It's like, so what? I don't really care. It's. There's something. I mean, they're aping the look of Pirates of the Caribbean sort of thing. There's nothing stylistically fun about it. There's no magic to the Neverland and the Lost Boys with the Lost Girls now. Just look like there's something out of the '90s basically Peter. It looks more like a sequel, like a '90s sequel, than it does a remake of the original live action remake of the original. But I think what bothered me most is basically how the discussion around Peter Pan, and I'm talking now. I'm gonna attack the right wing here, the anti-woke wing. The discussion about Peter Pan is a little bit surface level. Well, not a little. It's all surface level. It's not deep enough. It needs to be much deeper. See, when I grew up in the '90s. And then I went to college in the 2000s. It was in vogue. For some reason, it was in vogue. Or maybe, I don't know, you tell me. But like when I got to college age, there was a kind of a zeitgeist in the air to look at all these classic, some would say like children's literature, and reassess them and look and like reimagine, but reassess them as far as their messaging and what the deeper meanings are. So when I was in college, like, that's the first time I got introduced to Into the Woods, and I know Into the Woods goes way back to the '80s, but like it gave me a chance to like look at the Cinderella story, but look at a Cinderella story from a different perspective, and then I personally ended up in a production of of Peter Pan. So I sat through, like 18 performances of Peter Pan as a trumpet player, and when you do that, you have a lot of time to read. And usually what I do is I read about the source material. So I read about Peter Pan. And it's remarkable how deep Peter Pan, the story is. It's way more deeper than just a Disney cartoon movie. J.M. Barrie really, the context of Peter Pan is tremendously deeper. There we go. South Park, bigger, longer, uncut is the best musical. That's not untrue, says Jack Ripper. All right, so like part of the thing, and before we get to like about the stunt casting and making like Tinkerbell black, I don't care so much about that because like, well, she's a fairy, it doesn't matter. I just wonder when we're going to see a Chinese Tinkerbell, because my guess is never. Because race swapping doesn't you don't want to put Asians in there. No, not the biggest like group of people in the world. No, they don't exist. You gotta have a black Tinkerbell. No Asian Tinkerbells. We cannot do that. No Tinker May Wong Bell? I don't know. Just okay. That's a joke. But I mean, honestly, I don't really care about recasting Tinkerbell. We did it in Hook. In 1990s with Robin Williams, they made Tinkerbell a redheaded, like, fanciful character, and we were also used to the blonde, like, Marilyn Monroe style. Well, I mean, she wasn't quite Marilyn Monroe figure, but I mean, there was a little call to Marilyn Monroe in the original Tinkerbell. I think they toned that back. You guys that are nuts about the Disney stuff can correct me on that. So they did it with Julia Roberts, made her a redheaded Tinkerbell, which at first felt weird, but it's like, I can go with it. And then every other version of Tinkerbell, there's so many different versions now. If you explore different avenues and materials, it's a fairy. I mean, in the play version, like in the play, she's not even seen. Like in the play, Tinkerbell is a little spotlight that just flies around. That's how they do it in the thing, or an Indian Tinkerbell. Yeah, exactly, like a Southeast Asian Tinkerbell, or Indian, Middle Asian Tinkerbell, or even an Arabic Tinkerbell. Why not? Get them all in there. But no, race swapping only means white to black. It doesn't mean anything else in this society. Okay, but anyhow, I don't really care about that because Tinkerbell's not really the issue. I think the more offensive thing is the whole idea that now there's girls in the Lost Boys, and now I'm being completely sexist here, right? Now I'm going to be canceled here for saying that. No, the first thing that people reach for is the idea that, well, J.M. Barrie had a line of explanation in the book that said the Lost Boys were boys that fell out of their pram. And for us Americans that don't understand British language, a pram, I guess, is a baby buggy, a stroller or something like that, or is it one of those rocking or beds, right? One of those two. It's whatever. It's a baby furniture. I may be wrong on that. I haven't done any research. I'm flying on the seat of my pants here. So the Lost Boys are the children that fell out of the pram and they weren't found for like 7 days. And J.M. Barrie had a line in there. So girls are way too smart to do that, so that's why they don't get lost. So that's the original explanation of why they're Lost Boys. However, there is a far deeper explanation. The story about Peter Pan is it is about boys. I'm sorry, girls. The story of Peter Pan is about growing up as a boy, not growing up as a girl. And that's kind of what bothers me about this discussion. Putting girls in the Lost Boys basically abandons that. And I know J.K. Rowling's been canceled for all this stuff, but I think J.K. Rowling's point is she's looking for, there are spaces that should be for women. There are spaces that should, be protected for women, for that sex. I agree. On the opposite side, there are spaces for boys. There needs to be spaces for boys. And I feel putting girls in the Lost Boys is just trampling over more spaces for boys. And, I'm sorry if that sounds entirely sexist to say that. I think the reality is I feel like society is forgetting boys in the culture. And that everything is geared toward girls, that the boys themselves are basically, you either survive or you don't. And if you don't survive, well, screw it, you're not a good boy, and then let you go to nothing. Boy, I'm going to get in trouble for this stream, aren't I? I don't know. I don't think the woke people watch me. So that's my problem with that is it doesn't feel authentic about the purpose of the story. Now, again, maybe they're going in a whole different direction, and I guess that's fine, but I don't. That's what bothers me. And I think obviously the marketing for the Peter Pan stuff puts it right out in front. They could have just ignored the fact that there's girls in the Lost Boys, but they had to Wendy had to casually determine their gender identity without asking their pronouns. That's what she should have done at first. She should have said, do you identify as a lost boy? Just because you might identify as a lost boy, but you can be biologically female, but you can identify as a lost boy, right? That makes sense, right? So I'm being sarcastic. How dare you? How dare you? All right. But that's one of the issues I have. So what people also forget, you realize that Peter Pan in theater has been usually portrayed by a woman, right? If you want to make your woke mind break, in theater and in the 50s, the Peter Pan has been portrayed by a woman. It's always been a cross-dressing affair. And when I did the show, it was portrayed by a woman. a woman played Peter Pan, which is always interesting because I've always wondered like what that means in terms of like the story and element. I mean, from a past perspective, I think they used a woman because it was the most like young male. They could get a woman that was very thinly built and athletic and portray like a young male. I don't know exactly why they always did that in theater. Like it seems to be, and maybe you guys, maybe Chad can have some ideas and throw some ideas at me. But we forget that fact, don't we? Like when Peter Pan comes out, he's like, "Who are you? I'm Peter Pan. Did you expect someone else?" It's like, well, you forgot that in theater we've had women Peter Pan. So, the fact that you're like a more an ethnic looking boy isn't like weird. We've had that for forever. That's one thing I was going to, but that's one element that I think I wanted to address with the Peter Pan. Peter Pan is much more deeper story. Again, the woman being a woman portraying Peter Pan may have the logistical reasons because they have to do a lot of flying, so maybe they go on a lighter person. I always think, well, you can find a skinny guy to do it, but then Peter Pan may have a softer touch to it. I don't know exactly why. And maybe somebody in chat. Let's see if anybody in chat will throw down some ideas. Robert Williams portrayed Peter Pan, who then became a woman in Mrs. Doubtfire. Mind blown. Oh, there's a good point. Black Bug Media said it could be the prepubescent voice. That could be a reason why. Yeah, Mary Martin played a big chunk of her career. Exactly. Like Mary Martin was the king of Peter Pan, basically. So that's another element. So, like, I don't want to take on Peter Pan as saying Disney's version of Peter Pan is the only version, and that's set in stone, and that's the way we should be. Because I don't love the Disney version. It's not like I pull up. I used to have Disney Plus. I don't have it anymore because frankly, She-Hulk destroyed my hope in that company ever coming back. But I never once pulled up Peter Pan to watch it. However, like I said, I've done 18 shows of Peter Pan, and I will show you the only live version of Peter Pan you should watch. But I'll show you. I'll save that for later when we get out of the topic. The other thing I want to talk about as far as Peter Pan is what's interesting. Again, talking about how deep Peter Pan is J.M. Barrie. If you listen, and then I was wondering if it was Jordan Peterson that was talking about it, but I tried to find some. He doesn't really go into much detail about Peter. I've seen a lot of deep analysis. Basically, the father of the children, Wendy's father, something Darling. Darling's the name of the family. They always have him playing Hook. It's always a dual role. And there's a very important reason for that, because Hook represents aging. Hook represents growing up and becoming, and I was just listening to Jordan Peterson, he describes it as a tyrant, right? Hook he's being chased by the alligator that swallowed the clock. That is not a fun little trope. That is an allegory for time. Like the alligator is time and death. It's always following the adult around. And he's oppressed, and he becomes a tyrant, right? The father is the tyrant. And Peter Pan is the child that never grows up. So when you're a child, you have infinite possibilities. And you can do anything, nothing matters to you, everything is wonderful. We all remember our childhoods as a more innocent time, right? So you're always innocent, and that's why he's always running away from Hook, who represents maturity and growing up, right? I mean, the story is hugely more allegorical, and I'm going on the top of my head. I just thought of this topic this morning when I was eating my bowl of soup here, and I thought this would be a good thing to talk about. But there's so much more allegory as far as like what Peter Pan represents, and Wendy and how she is like a civilizing force to Peter Pan. Anyhow, yeah, there's so much more going on here, and the remake just looks like. It just looks like it's pretend. It just looks like, hey, we're going to dress up as Pirates of the Caribbean and just pretend that we're Peter Pan, and that's it. That's all it is. Oh yeah, Tom Sizemore. Donnie Pearson says, despite Tom Sizemore passing, yeah, that's a shame. Jack Ripper says Dustin Hoffman portrayed Hook, who then became a woman in Tootsie. Mind blown again. It's almost like playing different gender roles is kind of fun or interesting in the world of movies. Now, don't take your kids to drag shows, but it's not like you have to live in a certain bubble every single thing you do. So Hook will not be replaced by a woman. Well, first of all, we can't assume the person identifies as a woman. We don't know that, right? I'm just joking. Yeah, I don't care much for Peter Pan, but it's always a tricky thing to make right. You both celebrate childhood and accept that it will end. That's what makes that, if you dig down to the story of Peter Pan, like get away from the Disneyfied version of it and get down to like the story and the theater part of it, because Peter Pan's an interesting thing, because I believe, I may be wrong about, but Peter Pan existed as a theater show and a book almost simultaneously. Like they were kind of hand in hand. The theater tradition is very, very familiar, very closely tied to the story itself. Like they weren't like it was first a book and then it sold 1 million copies, then it became a play. It was sort of like it was a play and a book at the same time, kind of thing. I believe that's the way it was. Because there's some elements about it. When Tinkerbell dies, spoiler alert. If you don't know Tinkerbell dies, then, well. Now, okay, when Tinkerbell dies, the Wendy or Peter Pan turns to the audience and it says, you like if you believe, she'll come back to life. If you believe, right? And that is a theater tradition. And if you look at there's so many traditions. There's a great tradition in with the theater with Hook. So whenever Hook comes out, the audience is supposed to boo him. That's like the theater tradition, and it's so much fun when it's such a great way to introduce like children into culture, right? I don't know. Well, I'll show you a little bit of the thing later. But there's a lot of elements that are theatrical in the play that are, I think, got translated into the book more so. Account says the casting and trailers look like drama bait. They are. Oh yeah, Disney doesn't make movies; they make drama bait nowadays. That's all they do. Oh yeah, that's a good quote. Put that on a poster. Disney, we make drama bait now. And that's the thing. Like, I hope all of you guys take this life lesson. I think every time people think about the way history works, every time I think people talk about technology, or there is always an antithesis. There's a thesis and there's always an antithesis. And I hope all of you remember, like just 2 years ago when Disney bought Fox, or 3 or 4 years, or whenever it happened, right? I guess it was 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. When Disney bought Fox, we all thought we were all going to be under the thumb of Disney. That Disney was going to just swallow up everything in the world. And I hope you guys are starting to realize, like, no, there's always an antithesis. Like, it wasn't the end of the world and now Disney owns everything. Disney's going to crumble because they own everything. There's always the anti-force, the antithesis, the force that goes against it. And what you're seeing with the drama bait from Disney is the final lashings of a failing company. Until they can come out and say, I've got a great story, I've got a great movie for you. It's about a boy or it's about a girl who's got this song in her heart, but she just is beaten down all the time. And you will want to see this movie because it will bring you joy. You will be so moved by this story that you will leave the theater humming the songs, and it's great for the entire family. Bring your grandma, bring your kids. It's going to be a great time at the cinema. If they can't do that, then what can they do? That's it. Now they're just fueling the drama for the Twitter bots, and half of the stuff you see on Twitter is bots just yak back and forth trying to stir stuff. And that's sad. That's where this company is going. I know I'm kind of rough on Disney today. So to conclude that topic, I want to show you the only live action version of Peter Pan you need to watch. And I'm saying you need to watch this because it is my recommendation for the week. And that is the show called Peter Pan Goes Wrong. Let me show you a clip of that here. So Peter Pan Goes Wrong comes from a theater company in England that does these series of productions called Play That Goes Wrong, Magic Show That Goes Wrong, Show That Goes Wrong, stuff like that. Basically, it's the in-universe story is the Cornwall or Polytechnic University's theater troupe. They have one of their actors is uncles works for the BBC, so they got them to do this show. So they're trying to do Peter Pan on stage for the BBC, but everything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong. So let's see, jump into a little shot of this. Here, see if we can play a little bit without totally getting canceled. Or getting.
Say, can you really fly?
See if we get some audio.
Look.
We got audio?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh my,
Well, he's flying up on the stage.
It's simple. You just need your happiest thoughts and a little bit of fairy dust.
Fairy dust? How delightful.
Oh, fairy dust.
Are we all ready to fly?
Just think of a lovely, wonderful thought and it will lift you into the air.
1, 2,
3!
Oops. I love that we call him Smiley Guy, my friends and I love Smiley Guy.
We're flying!
I feel light as air.
Whee! It's time to go. Follow me to the window. Come on, Tink. Second to the right and straight on till morning. Here we go.
I don't get more in trouble here. Pause that.
Come on,
there.
boys. Just believe.
All right. So yeah, as someone that's done Peter Pan in theater, that is awesome. Oh, David Armstrong says a bunk bed gag. That's my favorite part. I didn't want to show it because that is the best part of that, the bunk bed gag. Those guys are great. It is I was playing that is for free on YouTube. It's an hour long. It's only an hour long special. They have a Christmas Carol Goes Wrong. I don't think Christmas Carol is probably the least of theirs. But that particular movie, I guess, that's the one to watch. I haven't watched Puss in Boots 2 yet. It's not. Oh, it's not the masterpiece the internet thinks it, but the execution is surprisingly great. Well, that's good enough for me. But yeah, so definitely watch the Peter Pan Goes Wrong. I think it's freaking hilarious, and Peter Pan Goes Wrong gets the lore right. It gets the theatrical tradition right, because I guess maybe Americans don't know, unless you're in theater, you don't really know how much of a tradition Peter Pan is in theater versus, because maybe Americans think that Peter Pan is Disney's Peter Pan, but that's not in England. They have something called pantomime season, where they kind of purposely put on shows that are geared toward families and stuff like that. So there's a lot of theater tradition for families, and Peter Pan's kind of a staple of that season. I may be completely getting all this stuff wrong. If you're British, I'm sorry. I'm an ignorant American. I don't know any better about your culture, but as I understand, it's like Peter Pan's much more of a tradition over there in the British culture. So again, like I was saying, there's a part in there where the tradition is to boo Hook. When Hook comes out, boo, boo. But the actor in the play, this gets me so hard. The actor in the show gets offended by the fact that people are booing. He's like, "Stop it! Stop booing me!" Oh God, I love it. I love it. When I saw, so they have a couple little exports. They did the Play That Goes Wrong, which is their original concept, and what it was is basically like a murder mystery play, but everything falls apart. And they did. I went to L.A. to see it, and they had a line in there where he's like looking for a book. He puts it down. Another character picks up the book and like puts it somewhere else. And he's looking for the book, but it's underneath the couch or something like that. And he's like, "Where is that book? Where is that book? Where is that book?" and he drives the audience into kind of a frenzy because they're like, "It's under the couch!" Someone has to eventually scream it out. He's waiting for that, right? The actor knows the audience is going to do that. And it's under the couch. And then the actor just turns to the audience like, "Quiet. Like, there's no way to behave in a theater." Like, you know, they don't act this way on Broadway. These new, he just is like such a perfectly played the audience like an instrument. I absolutely adore those moments. Absolutely adore those moments. So I was coming up. So let me talk about two other musicals that I watched again. I've rewatched them because I was kind of on like a weird thing. I actually liked the 2002 Pan movie. Which one was the 2002 Peter Pan movie? I don't remember. So there's so many different Peter Pans. Hook is meh. I kind of agree with. Hook is like, yeah. I'm not crazy about Hook either. It's a little ugly to me. But anyhow. So I watched The Music Man the other night again because I was just like, well, I don't know if I told you. I did watch like Ben-Hur because it was Clay and I went to. My friend Clay, by the way, if he's still in chat, he came out last week and helped me reorganize. So we didn't do anything, didn't do a stream last week because I was way too tired from cleaning here. So the place is much better looking. Thank you, Clay. But after we ate some sushi, we were all like really tired, so I put on Ben-Hur to watch because I was like, well, I want to watch something that I've seen before and I can kind of doze off halfway through, which I did. And then when I woke up, I was only like at the halfway point of the movie because the thing is so damn long. But I watched that, and I went down to memory lane and watched Music Man because I was like, well, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Music Man. I always thought it was kind of corny and all that. But this time watching it, I was really way more invested into it. There's something about the Music Man that is, and I'm talking about Robert Preston version, and my God, maybe I'm getting older or something, or I'm just getting more and more desperate and lonely. But Shirley Jones as Marion, the librarian, holy moly! I was just looking at her like, holy moly, that she is so freaking hot in that movie. The librarian is so hot in this movie. And I was yelling at Robert Preston, like, Robert Preston, you better get on Maid Marian. You better get with her. Stop your city hopping shenanigans. You're never going to find better than Marian the librarian. You better stay there because that chick is bombing. She's smart. She can sing. I mean, she's just gorgeous. Like, dude, you can go around Iowa all you want. You're never going to find better than Marion. Stay there. I was yelling at the screen. I was pissed. And the weird thing is I felt like I was drunk, but I hadn't been drinking at all. I haven't had much to drink since last weekend. So like the whole week I didn't drink anything. No alcohol. Nothing. No alcohol at all. I didn't do anything else either. I was just entranced by this musical, which I used to love. I used to love doing musicals a lot more. But it feels like society and today's culture, everything is so what you call it? So cynical that you can't have a story about love and what it feels like to be in love, or a girl who feels like she'll never be in love, and then he comes along and then she's smitten by him. There's parts where she basically almost is hypnotized by him, and you watch that and you're like, wow, I remember that feeling. I don't remember I haven't had that feeling in a while. So, let's see. Account for Comments says, never seen the play or care about the book, but I think the classic Disney show theme and allegory very well. The family looking at the ship at the end with the dad remembering the good times before he grew up. I mean, Disney didn't screw it up in the 50s. They didn't blow it. But I don't think it quite encapsulates Peter Pan as deeply and richly as the original does. Account for Comments says, I don't like Peter Pan as a character to see him much, but the way Disney preachy company is does not feel right with the story. And remember, like, Peter Pan is kind of a dick. I'm not kidding. Like, because children are kind of dicks, right? Like, Peter Pan is not he's not like a generous person. He's selfish because he's a child. Remember that. Like that's the thing about Peter Pan, right? He's not like some superhero character. No, he's a childish kid. That's what he is. He's a child. So let's come up with a list of movies that would be a bad idea to turn to musicals. Well, there we go. I don't know. I'm for a lot of movies turning to musicals. So I watched Music Man. I didn't want to say how much I was so in love with Shirley Jones. I just wanted to make that statement there. I ended up Googling Shirley Jones and going down the rabbit hole and like, oh, she aged well. I mean, even as a older lady, she looked great. So yeah, I'm totally smitten with Shirley Jones. So imagine like Olivia Newton-John in Grease, but all the time, and that was Shirley Jones. Oh, Catherine Zeta-Jones and Bridget Moynihan. Uh-oh, here we go. Terminator 2 Judgment Day, the musical. I could go for that. How about, I mean, the classic one is Planet of the Apes, the musical in the Simpsons episode. Dr. Zaius. So I watched that. Then I watched, because I was like, well, I'm in the mood for some weird stuff. Not weird. I'm in the mood for more avant-garde musicals. So I went to watch, I watched Chorus Line. So I think it was like 75 or something like that, somewhere in that area. And I gotta say, the dancing in Chorus Line, like, it's so vibrant. It's so amazingly powerful. The dancing in Chorus Line, the moves and everything that they do in Chorus Line feels like, wow, I'm impressed here. 40 years removed from that movie, 50 years moved. Oh my God, 50 years removed from that movie, and watching that, and like the dancing we do today, the dancing in movies today is still, it's okay, but it's not as like gritty and powerful as that movie was. The movie, I didn't really care that much. I ended up watching it over 2 nights because I had to break it in half. The movie's okay, not great, but the dancing is so spectacular in Cabaret. Oh my God, Cabaret. So those are the 2 musicals. And in the same vein that we're talking about Peter Pan, I did want to mention Mary Poppins, because I actually did Mary Poppins first as a musical. I did that for 18 shows, and then I did Peter Pan the following year. So I had, for me, those two shows are kind of intricately linked, and that there's a lot more under the hood with those 2 movies. Not movies, but stories. Like Mary Poppins, we think, oh, it's Julie Andrews is cute, they're laughing and they're floating on the sea. No, Mary Poppins is much deeper. And I think, the movie Saving Mr. Banks sort of alludes to kind of the under message that it's really about the father, bringing him back into the world of, basically the father is beaten down by society in the sense that he just goes to work, he's got to be proper, and he's got to have, he has no fun. In many ways, these stories are about men. Go figure. Like men have feelings that we have to deal with. God, how dare you say that? How you be so damn sexist? Men don't have feelings. Men don't matter. No, but Mary Poppins is really about the father character, kind of accepting, maybe not necessarily accepting his story, his position, but loosening up a little bit and embracing a little bit of that childhood fantasy. In some ways, the Mary Poppins sequel that they put out, it tried. I'll give the second one a little bit more credit because it attempts to, in some ways, capture some of those dilemmas that are being forced. Because in the second version, in the sequel, the son grows up, and the son is dealing with like a major loss in his life. His wife died, and the girl ends up being, I think, like a spinster. There's somewhat little like maybe she doesn't like men, kind of a situation. But it felt like the second one at least tried to contain some of the deeper allegory that I'm not even probably using that word allegory properly, the deeper messaging about like dealing with grief, dealing with loss in the second movie. So at least it tried. My problem with the sequel is it literally was too far beat for beat the original one. It's sort of that people that were saying that the first movie, the new Star Wars. I can't remember the name of it, but the first movie was too much like New Hope, in that they're like beat for beat, beat for beat. And the new Mary Poppins was like, well, we need a step in time song. Okay, let's do a Lamplighter song. It's the same damn thing, but it's just a bunch of people, dancing around. It's like it's a little too much, exactly the same, instead of being a little bit more. Because Mary Poppins has a whole library of books that she has a whole bunch of adventures they can pull from, but they won't, because Hollywood knows better. They know better than to try to take. To just take classic IP characters and just make new stories about them without, actually using the stories that they came from. God forbid, how dare you? A comic book movie that's not based on a comic book, instead just the characters. Like, oh, whatever. That leads me to, so I was going down the rabbit hole again with Chorus Line, and like, how did Chorus Line come about? And I was listening, and I was thinking about this, and I was hearing that it was the director workshopped this thing. Because if you don't know Chorus Line, basically it's an audition process. It's like American Idol almost, but this director is looking for 8 boys, 8 girls. That's the term they use. 8 boys, 8 girls to dance in the chorus line, and so they're having this audition, and there's like 16 people on the stage. He's got to decide which one he wants. So he's like, okay, I want you now to tell me about your life. I want to get to know you, because the part requires a lot of acting, and you might want to use you, but I want to make sure you jive with everything. And so all the characters sing and talk about their life history, and some of them are, it deals with homosexualities. There's some people there's a couple dancers that are gay. Shocking. But back then it was kind of like the first musical to tackle, like a big musical to tackle homosexuality. There are some girls. There's a song in there which is called TNA, or Looks 10 Dance, or Dance 10 Looks 3, about a girl that's like passed over every time to be in the chorus until she got her boob job. Basically, there's all kinds of stories about this. So they're all little snippets of life. In the very end, he picks the 8, and then they all dance to the song Chorus Line, the one song. So I was curious to see how that story was produced, or how it came to be, and I discovered that it was workshopped. Like a lot of these things are workshopped. I went back and looked at Music Man, and Music Man was workshopped. Like the original title of Music Man was The Boy in the Silver Triangle, because the original story was about this guy, Harold Hill, coming to town, and he's starting a boys marching band, and he finds this one disabled kid who can't play an instrument, he can't do anything, but what he can do is play the triangle. And that inspires the kid to, like, not feel like life is completely crap for him. That he has a little bit of joy in his life through music. And then they developed the character in the movie. It's played by Ron Howard, but the character of Winthrop, who's the kid that lisps all the time. And he wouldn't talk because he thought his lisp was so bad. And then the Harold Hill gives him a cornet, and all of a sudden he gets like super happy, and he starts talking, and he's like, oh, Harold Hill taught me a song that doesn't have any S's in it, and so I can sing it. Gary, Indiana, not Louisiana, like romance, so forth. So that kind of morphed into that, right? But it got me thinking that, all these great works that have come from theater have been workshopped, which workshop just means they put together the program, and they'll show it in a small crowd, and then they'll get feedback. They'll judge how the audience, and they'll watch it over and over again. And through hundreds and hundreds of these workshops, these things emerge. These works emerge. And you got to wonder, is Velma made that way? It sure as hell doesn't look like it. Right? Like today, what do we have? What do we have in today's world that can be kind of workshopped? Right? What do we have that, I guess, stand-up comedy? Stand-up comedy, you hear about these stand-up comics going to these shows and doing open mic nights and just going up there and working on their set and developing and perfecting their set. But none of the movies, TV shows do not get that sort of kind of, performance and review, and that constant feedback that generates the masterworks of theater. Instead, we look at it as if the masterwork has to come straight from the mind of the author and just spewed on paper, and then, okay, now it's a masterwork. Like there's no, the collaborative effect of an audience is gone. In some ways I talk about, like, That's why I love working with actors, because in a sense, when and I'm working with an actor when we're directing something, it's a collaborative effect. I'm not there to impose my will as a director. I'm there to kind of look and judge and make suggestions and work with people and like try different things. That's essentially a sort of a workshop. It's not a long form workshop, but anyhow, that's just what's on my mind today. I was just thinking about how we make a mistake thinking that art is a single pursuit by a single individual pursuit. A lot of this performance arts, a lot of the performing arts are collaborative effects. I think about jazz too. Hopefully, I'm not speaking out of turn here. I used to play a lot more jazz than I do. Since the pandemic, I haven't really played in a jazz band at all. I used to enjoy soloing and improvising. And improvising a solo, you have to work with the rhythm section. The rhythm section provides kind of a form and structure, and you kind of go around it. And when you get really good, and I've very rarely gotten a situation where I'm good enough and the rhythm section is good enough that we will communicate to each other through our soloing, through our playing. So I might go like, and then maybe the piano player will start mimicking what I'm doing. There's a kind of call and response. We're acknowledging each other's existence. We're kind of making fun of each other and having fun through music. I've rarely ever gotten to that point. And half of it's on me. Half of it means I'm not good enough to do it. The other half is sometimes the rhythm section I play with are I did play in a rehearsal not that long ago. The rhythm section was tripping me up more than it was helping me. I'll just put it that way. I won't go any further than that. But anyhow, I feel like we diminish the role of collaboration, especially in performing arts. Okay? Performing arts are all about collaboration. And the pandemic has unfortunately killed collaboration for the last 3 years. We got to get back to that. So anyhow, let's talk about what you guys want to talk about. Let's see what you guys are saying. Let's go back here. Let's see. Apology for being sexist. Better way to describe everything is made for school teachers and school students. So cynicism is just lashing out. Hail Caesar. I want to rewatch that movie. I've seen it like 4 times now. I love Hail Caesar. I love that's the little Magic Mike moment in that movie where they're kind of ripping off of Gene Kelly a little bit about like there ain't going to be no dames in the Navy. It's a bunch of Navy guys and they all just end up dancing with each other. It's got some really hilarious homosexual undertones. I love that movie. It's Hail Caesar's. The more I watch it, the more I love it. I think it's one. I'll be completely honest. If you don't love the history of it, it's not going to be. You're not going to be think it's great. It's just not. That's just the truth. But if you're well versed in the history, the more you watch them, the funnier it gets. The funnier it gets. Does Inside Llewyn Davis or Oh Brother Where Art Thou? I haven't seen Inside Llewyn Davis, but Oh Brother would not count as a musical. Because I mean, a musical, it's a movie with music. A musical is essentially a movie in which the songs are part of the storytelling device, and I don't mean in a non-diegetical nature. And what that means, that's film theory's jargon for basically the music doesn't exist in the scene. Like with Where Art Thou, Oh Brother Where Art Thou, the music is part of what's happening. They are the Soggy Bottom Boys. That it's a performance that they're putting on in the scene itself. Whereas a musical, the singing is a device, but it's not necessarily diegetical. Not necessarily. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and Wizard of Oz. My favorite musical, if we're going to get down to my favorite musicals, is probably going to be I love, as far as movies, I do love Chicago. Like I will go on a limb and say Chicago is one of the best movie musicals because it accomplishes what a movie can do very well. Like Chicago doesn't pretend it's not a movie. It's not just a stage. It's not just a recording of a stage show. And that's what happened to a lot of movie musicals back in the 40s and some like 50s and 60s. They're kind of more like just stagey musicals. But Chicago uses the devices of cinema for telling a cinematic story. And then they also be able to ape the style and of the music to incorporate that kind of burlesque style, what's the other, vaudeville style performance. So to me, Chicago is so successful as a movie musical because it does both so well. That's why I think it's great. The other one I love is Rocky Horror Picture Show. So that's my other favorite movie musical because it is so silly and fun. If you watch Rocky Horror Picture Show with the impression that I'm going to watch a serious movie, then you're totally watching it wrong. I think it's self-aware. It knows it's silly, and it's over the top performance. It is, I love it, and I do love there's scripts out there for people that go to Rocky Horror Picture Show screenings where they yell stuff at the screen. So there are like monologues that things you will say to the screen, and the screen will respond in a funny way. I love that, but the movie works just fine without having that, in my opinion. Team America World Police, there's another example. I mean, the Trey Parker and Matt Stone have made some great, wait till you see Book of Mormon in a movie. I mean, it's going to be a movie eventually, right? It's got to be a movie, but the Book of Mormon is fantastic. It's one of the best. Now, the Book of Mormon, however, you realize just how much it's ripping off other musicals. There's so many songs in the Book of Mormon. It's like a meta musical, right? Like everything is a callback to like either Producers or Wicked or Lion King is an example in there. Bono, it makes fun of Bono a lot. So Book of Mormon almost cannot exist by itself. It's always self-referential to something, and that comes to the territory of South Park guys. They're always referencing something, but it still works though as a musical. You don't need to know that song is Defying Gravity from Wicked. You don't need to know that because it works in the scene. That's why your favorite director is Damien Chazelle. If you not watched my streams, no, Damien Chazelle is my auntie. So imagine me in this discussion, but now get rid of put on a little pencil mustache and then like a hat and be evil me. That's Damien Chazelle. I hate Damien Chazelle's movies. I hate his stuff because he's like everything I love, but backwards. I have a good sense of humor. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I bet you if I met him, he'd probably kick my ass. But anyhow, what do you think of critics criticizing critics today? I grew up with Roger Ebert and other greats. Now I feel the quality of the critic falls much lower than the film. And the problem with that too, also is social media has disrupted everything, and internet too. Because remember the critics, I grew up with Roger Ebert too, but you got to remember Roger Ebert was the second generation. The first generation was Pauline Kael. I mean, you might even go back earlier to the people that founded the French New Wave, because those guys were the critics of French cinema. And actually, this morning when I was eating breakfast, I was thinking about how, I wonder if we're due for another French New Wave, but an American New Wave, because in the French New Wave, and I'm just going to give you a very superficial understanding of the history, is those guys were all writers for the Cahiers de Cinema. The Notebook of Cinema, which was a film criticism magazine. So they were all writers. They were all film critics, like Godard and Truffaut. Those guys were all film critics. They're criticizing the silly, stupid, inane movies of the old French cinema. That was their complaint. What does that look like? Does that look like people complaining about Marvel movies and the inane quality of popular entertainment? It does, doesn't it? So it's almost like, the thing is though, I think the difference is the critics today need to pick up a camera and make it happen for a new American new wave to show up. Like we need to get our butts out in gear and make some movies. And I'm not talking about going to Hollywood. We stay. You've got all the tools now. Everyone has all the tools you need to make a movie, and we even have tools to distribute a movie. Like it's time to take it to stop being critics. Although you can be a critic. You can go on YouTube and start a channel and lambast Marvel movies for being woke all day long. You can make a lot of money doing that. But I think at some point we gotta do that, but then start making our own stuff and then getting it out there. And it doesn't necessarily be politically driven either. Like that's the other thing I was thinking about this morning was the Daily Wire stuff. So the Daily Wire bothers me a little bit that everything they do is all hidden under their like paywall stuff, right? Like they'll make movies, but you have to like sign up for Daily Wire. Well, for people that are 90% of the population that doesn't care about politics, they say Daily Wire. Oh, I don't want to be involved with politics. I don't want to deal with that. So they won't ever see the movies because everything's siloed in this political culture. So you gotta stop doing that. If you want to create good stuff, we gotta make it available for everybody. We can't just you can't just sell stuff on purely political basis because you're always going to limit your audience. And again, there's also, it's not like the American population is 50% Democrat and 50% Republican. It's actually more like 10% Republican, 10% Democrat, and then everyone else just leave me the hell alone. That's really, to me, what the issue is. So you can't couch everything in politics, right? You got to go for mainstream culture. Anyhow, that's my thoughts. Moulin Rouge was very nice. I never liked Moulin Rouge until I watched it when I was older and I could take the amount of editing that's involved. But Nicole Kidman, like, there has never been, that movie captures her beauty so amazingly well. Like, oh my God. And what's his face? Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm not gay. I'm not. I'm seriously. I talk about musicals. I'm not gay. But he's a good-looking guy. He's a good-looking guy. I wish I looked like him. Jack D. Ripper said I saw Book of Mormon 3 times. Yeah, it's that great. It really is. Repo the Rock Opera is the kind of movie I like to make, and it should be made more. And I only see it in style in animes. Yeah, I remember Repo the Rock Opera. It was a Christine Daae was in that movie, right? What's her name? Sarah Brightman. Sarah Brightman was in that because Sarah Brightman I always loved because I never really saw much of her. She didn't do a whole lot in the States here at least. But Repo the Rock Opera is a very interesting. It's sort of like 2000s ish grunge rock metal. It's about basically a corporation has gotten so massive that they create like artificial like organs, and then you get an artificial organ, and then you have to you're like a basically indentured servant to that corporation. You have to pay them money, and if you don't pay them, they send out the repo man who cuts you up and like takes your organs back. Right? I think I haven't seen the movie in like 20 years, but that's the general basis of it. So it's a totally crazy, but it's a cool movie. I mean, it's not my favorite musical. It dips in quality a little bit if I'd be honest, like it doesn't keep my attention all the way through, but it's a generally interesting idea. Counts as my favorite musical is Into the Woods, and not. Oh, the movie is just crap. I mean, it's okay. The movie is like lighthearted. Sondheim always surprises me. As I understand it, when they do Into the Woods for kids, there's an Into the Woods for like young kids version that the kids can do for their theater project. They actually just do the first half. They don't actually do the second half, which is funny. Cahiers de Cinema, that's the one. All right. Cassavetes was the American New Wave. Well, I'm just saying I think there's a new wave coming. I think it can come if we get off our asses and stop sitting on Twitter and moaning and bitching about it. I think we can do it. My hours are strange. Yeah, I came on earlier today because I figured a lot of people come on my streams at 4 o'clock, and they complain that it's like 2 a.m. in their time. So I figured I'd come on earlier, and I also had more time this week. If you got, last stream I talked about, I put my mom in a like a residential care facility. So it frees up so much time for me. So now I can actually do stuff. So now I'm doing stuff. So I just had more time today. I wanted to do this stream here, and then I've got a couple client work that I need to work on today, and I was going to go to the gym and then work on this review. So I did a critique. I think I'm going to call them filmmaker IQ critiques. Basically, what we used to do on the stream, where we would watch presented a I call it a movie, documentary, or industrial. So one of those, send them to me, and I'll go through like 5 minutes of it. And we'll go through like picture, like bit by bit, and that's what I did. True Film says, "What about Rocky Horror movie show? Which one's a movie show? Oh, picture show. You mean? Okay, I didn't really like it. What the heck is it about? It's about letting your freak flag fly. I think, like, to me, the ultimate, when you boil down to it, is to have a little bit of fun, do the time warp again. It's just a step to the left, or a step to the right, and then step to the left. Shake your hips and whatever. I don't know the exact lyrics of the time warp, but I think with Rocky Horror, it's also kind of a tribute to the 1950s style of sci-fi. Because if you listen to the lyrics of the original, let's see if we can find the original lyrics. Lyrics of Rocky Horror. Listen to the soundtrack lyrics. Here we go. Michael Rennie was ill the day the earth stood still, but he told us where we stand, and Flash Gordon was there in silver underwear. Claude Rains was the invisible man. Then something went wrong with Fay Ray and King Kong. They got caught in a celluloid jam. Then, in a deadly pace, it came from outer space, and this is how the message ran. Like, isn't that just chock full of references to sci-fi? I mean, it to me, it invokes sort of this nostalgia look at the kind of silliness of, sci-fi in the 50s, I think, 40s, 50s, 60s. Science fiction double feature. Dr. X will build the creature. See androids fighting. Brad and Janet and Francis stars in Forbidden Planet. At the late night double feature picture show. Again, more lyrics. I knew Leo G. Carroll was over a barrel when Tarantula took the pills, and I really got hot when I saw Janet Scott fight a Triffid that spits poison and kills. Dana Andrews said prunes gave him the runes, and passing them used a lot of skills, but when worlds collide, said George Powell to his bride, I'm gonna give you some terrible thrills. I mean, it just, to me, invokes a sense of kitschy fun. I'm a sucker for that. So the whole essence of it is it's sort of a mock of the kind of sci-fi stuff, and then you throw in this kind of this Frankfurter performance that Tim Curry puts out. It's just so over the top, and so just like what the hell? It's like a marvelous cocktail of absurdity and over the top, and then at the very end where he's singing to all the don't be it. Where's that song? There you go. Let's see, where's the? Yeah, whatever happened to Fay Ray, that delicate satin draped frame as it clung to her thigh, how I started to cry, because I wanted to be dressed just the same. This is the transsexual from Transylvania, right? Give yourself over to absolute pleasure, swim in the warm waters of sin of the flesh, erotic nightmares beyond any measure, and sensual daydreams to treasure forever. Can't you just see it? Whoa-hoo-hoo, don't dream it, be it. So it's sort of, Rocky, not Rocky. Frankfurter is kind of the embodiment. He's presenting the embodiment of hedonism here, and then he's ultimately killed for it. Let's see. We're a wild, untamed thing. I'm going down some of these lyrics I want to go over. Let's see. I realize I'm going home. Anyhow, I can go down this. I read this one article that basically said that Rocky Horror was almost also kind of like a warning against glam rock. Like they were stretching this point out that glam rock was sort of this, cross-dressing, long hair kind of thing. Ultimately got killed, destroyed because it just went too far. I forget the name of that article. But so there's so many different meanings as far as how you can read Rocky Horror. But it's a fun movie. What's interesting, I did a look into the history of Rocky Horror. It wasn't a success. None of these movies are, a movie like Rocky Horror doesn't create big giant successes. But what happened was, it was relegated to a midnight showing the year it came out. I think it was 1975. And they actually documented when the first callbacks were the tradition of yelling at the screen. And it happened in San Francisco. This one like third grade teacher and this other girl and the group of them would get together and then go to these midnight screenings. And he just started like saying stuff to the screen, and it kind of caught on. And it kind of built and built and built and built. And that's how the Rocky Horror Picture phenomenon came. The trivia everyone says about Rocky Horror, it's the longest running movie. It is still playing to this day somewhere in America, is having a Rocky Horror Picture Show screening tonight, for all these years. Because it's that much fun. So, hey, Bullet Silence, how you doing? Good evening. Just dropped on. If you're the type that enjoy B movies, you can find a lot of references. Basically, the stories that pay tribute to the attitudes of silly, weird stories parody. Exactly, yeah. Jack had to cut it short. Oh, Jack Ripper. Yep. See you later, Jack. Oh, there. See, Hardcore Morris says, I'm the perfect time today, just before UFC. That's exactly how I planned it. Totally planned it. Exactly that way. Yeah. So that's Rocky Horror. I think I need to go back and watch Hail Caesar again. I'm gonna probably do that. Although I wonder if I was thinking about going to the movies tonight. I mean, I have a lot of work to do, but I can always get away, right? Let's see. I wonder if maybe I should go see Puss in Boots. I could probably go see that. I was wondering, like, what would I go see tonight if I were going to see a movie theater in the theater? I mean, I pay for that dang like thing where you can go every week and watch like a bunch of movies, but I haven't gone in a while. So I got right now tonight's Creed 3, Demon Slayer, Operation Fortune, Ruse of Guire, never heard of that, Cocaine Bear, Jesus Revolution, Mummies, Ant-Man the Wasp, Knock at the Cabin, Women Talking. Oh, Puss in Boots, 2:30. Oh, well, I have to leave now for it, I guess. Avatar, All Quiet on the Western Front, and Top Gun Maverick, I guess for Oscar screening, I guess. Yeah, they got 3 screenings of Avatar and only one of All Quiet on the Western Front and Top Gun Maverick. I'm not seeing Avatar again. I saw it twice. And Women Talking just unfortunately does not look appealing to me. I'm sorry. Yeah, what was the word on Cocaine Bear? I don't think it would. I don't think it had great reviews. I don't know. No one was like saying it was. Yeah, as a must see. Anybody here seen Cocaine Bear? Wait for your guys' thoughts on that. Bullet Signs. Have you seen Cocaine Bear? Yeah. First time I saw Rocky Horror, I absolutely hated it, but the lyrics are so catchy. Sometimes movies like that take a while to land, right? Are you going to see John Wick 4? I haven't seen John Wick 3, or have I? I don't remember. Nate Dollar finally watched Babylon again. Good for you. Someone's got to pay for that movie, man. It ain't going to be me. It might as well be you. I'm not going to watch that pile of elephant shit. My favorite, Hail Caesar, is part of the actor who keeps messing. Oh, I love that thing. I love that. For you guys that don't know, that scene is Han Solo, the guy that plays Han Solo in the like Eric Aldrich or something like that, and the guy that plays Ray Fiennes, and they're basically he's a Western actor, and he's coming in from the cowhand. They just pulled him because he was a famous actor from doing all the Western. He's like a buddy, not Buddy Holly, but Betty Adler. I don't know, one of the cowboys, singing cowboy, right? And they pull him in to do this this foo sort of British style comedy with the pinky upraised, but his line is like if it were that simple. If it were that simple, he just has a problem saying it. And Ray Fiennes like, no, just say trippingly. If it were that simple, no, say if it were. What's tour? What is tour? No, if it were that simple. And he's like, if it were that simple. He just ends up slapping him, and then the final cut's like, it's complicated. That's my favorite part of that movie. Oh God, I love that movie. John, are you familiar with the one-shot final Hey Nani Nani scene in Kenneth Branagh's Not Much Ado About Nothing? No, I haven't. I am not familiar with Kenneth Branagh. Much Ado About Nothing. I gotta watch it. Babylon is great. Tobey Maguire. I think Babylon is a pile of shit, but that's just me. I think Babylon is a deep semiological understructure. You are right, it does. It's just covered in shit. That's the problem with that movie. I mean, the other problem, you can go back and re-argue this thing, but I also fundamentally disagree with its understructure. I fundamentally disagree with its perspective and outlook on the history of the situation. I think it's a phony piece of shit. I think it is as light and phony as a what can we say it's a phony as? It's basically superficial and shallow. So much so that it's insulting to somebody that even knows anything about the story, about what happened. All right, that's my take on it. That was quick. Regarding the Hey Nani Nani scene from Much Ado, smooth 3-minute traveling track shot goes from ground level to ending up in a 75 foot aerial shot. No edit. How they do that? Very well choreographed. Oh. No, they probably put it on a helicopter. Did they? I don't know. 75 foot aerial. It's got to be like a helicopter, right? Yeah. Yeah, Bullet says helicopter shot. Yeah, it's probably got a helicopter. Is it language related, including the musical language and people not understanding each other? Not sure what that means. There has been some talk lately about how the sound design in movies has gotten worse, and it's been noticed by a couple people that comment on my videos, and I think it's true. And you know who also suffers from that is musicals. And I noticed one thing when I went and saw Sweeney Todd, and this has got to be like 10 years ago when it came out, whenever it came out. I noticed that the words in Sweeney Todd were unintelligible in many times. And that's a problem because Stephen Sondheim's lyrics are not meant to just be flutter. They're very important, and every word is chosen very carefully. So the sound design in Sweeney Todd, I thought maybe it was my theater. I thought, maybe it's my theater. Maybe when I watch it at home on a DVD or something like that, it will be a better... Nope. Can't understand half of it because it's just... Maybe it's just also because of Helena Bonham Carter's voice is sort of... Her diction's not precise. The quality of her voice is not so full-toned that it's a lot of airiness. So when you have all these consonants coming out there, they don't present as full words. More like rather than like that, where it's full-throated. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I haven't studied it. I just thought of it right now, and I'm just spitballing stuff. So go watch Western Front. What time is the Western Front movie coming on? Thing is, I'm not in the mood to. It's 3:30, so I have to go like later. I just don't want to see a sad movie, and I know it's a sad movie. Like I'm not in the mood for sadness. I want like fun stuff because I'm lame. Because my life has been quite busy, kind of shit for a while. So I want to. That's why I watch Music Man. So I watched chorus lines because I wanted to see the girls dancing. They're pretty. That movie's borderline pornographic. I'll be honest about that. 1975. I mean, the girls, they were like, they were not wearing much. Well, they're wearing a lot, but they weren't. It wasn't hiding much. Let's put it that way. The dialogue is mostly mumble and whisper nowadays. Too far away from the old, loud and clear stage play dialogue, in my opinion. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Okay, so another weird. All right, now we're deep enough. I'm not going to get not all the. I don't think there are any women on this channel right now. I think it's all us guys here. So let's talk frankly. I was going through weird corners of Amazon, and I saw this movie called Girl Scene. All right, and you're like, I like girl scenes. Let me watch Girl Scene, and it was like sold as a sort of like LGBTQ friendly sort of weird, like sex comedy or sex drama. And so I watched a bit of it, and first of all, like, it's not. They kiss. That's all. There's nothing more than that. Barely anything more than that. Which is like kind of annoying because you're like, well, I mean, wouldn't lesbians want to see other girls? I mean, wouldn't you want to see that? I mean, it's aimed for lesbians, and then guys that like to look at lesbians, why not? But the other thing I noticed about the production value, like, holy moly, the production value is like shit. Like, I just did a class, I did a class on Friday about talking about broad lighting versus short lighting. And broad lighting is basically where you put the camera on the same side as the key light. So the key light, so if I'm looking over here, the key light would be coming here. All right, so you get the side of my face that's the full light. I have a video on the topic. I call it shoot the fill side. So the broad lighting's that way. Short lighting is if I'm facing this way, the key light's coming this way, and you're seeing the fill side of my face. Right. So this movie called Girl Scene, and ended up being a web series as well. They basically shot everything with like an aperture light. I mean, I guess it was 2013, so aperture light didn't exist yet. But basically a big blasting light right by the camera, like massively bright light. So there was absolutely no artistic look to it. It just looked like big blasty light. That's all it was. Big blasty light. Every single shot. And it just was so poorly. I mean, okay, sexist. John's coming out. The actresses are very pretty. They could have shot this better. They could have made them look pretty, but it just looks like amateurish. I mean, it was amateurish. It was just this blasty light that just looked. Yeah, I didn't get into it. I skipped it forward to see what was going to happen. Nothing happened. I turned it off. Then I went and finished off Chorus Line because I was like, I'm going to get some titillation from watching Chorus Line. That's what I'm going to do. Boy, I am such a nasty person. I'm awful. Yeah, short lighting is chiaroscuro. Yeah, similar. And it's also, if you look at Rembrandt, a lot of Rembrandt paintings, they end up talking about Rembrandt lighting. You know, Rembrandt lighting isn't necessarily broad or short lighting, although oftentimes they'll use short lighting in conjunction with Rembrandt lighting. And so if you don't know what Rembrandt lighting is, it was a term popularized in the 90s for video production and talking heads. And what's characteristically unique about Rembrandt lighting is the way that the light casts a shadow under the nose. So the shadow comes down like this, and so it creates a very significant, or a very characteristic triangle right under the eye. And that's what Rembrandt lighting is kind of known for, is that triangle of light right underneath the eye. And it's just a good look. It always looks great. It always looks great. So if you can pull off a Rembrandt lighting, but it is a style, so don't use it for everything. I love what a DOP said to me a few years ago when asked to describe what their job is. He said to me, he paints with light. That's what DOP does, leading into your production value. Exactly. And I said it again in my lecture yesterday. I said, what does photography mean? It means photo, light, graphy, drawing. Photo, drawing with light. That's literally broke right down in the word itself. And cinematography is just motion drawing with light, motion picture drawing, cinema, kinema if you want to go older school. Hey, Matthias, how you doing? Welcome. We just talked about Peter Pan. I hope you can go back and at least catch some of that, because we talked about, because you're the one that brought up Peter Pan. I was like, you made me look it up. Yeah, HBO Max is probably my favorite catalog of mainstream streaming services, despite all the content removals lately. But their TV app is the worst. Oh, really? I like their TV app. Their Android app can feel unusable. I watched Music Man, I think, through HBO Max. That's what eventually got me to take. I was subscribed to Broadway HD for a while, for a long time. But I was paying like $8.99 a month for it, and I was like, I don't watch this. The ones I wanted to watch were on HBO Max. So I'll go back and watch HBO Max. Can you give us some of your favorite examples of cinematography? I love cinematography with Casablanca, Vertigo, Lawrence of Arabia, Singing in the Rain, Wizard of Oz. Those are great examples. I need to, HBO Max just put on their catalog Birdman. I need to go back and watch Birdman, because Birdman is a very interesting cinematography in that it's the approach is obviously the trick of the one single take, right? I mean, it's not really one take, but it's that idea. I love the look of Birdman when I saw it way back. So one of the examples. Another cinematography I did love, I love the cinematography of Roger Deakins in some of the Bond movies, like the Bond, especially Skyfall. Skyfall is the one I was. There are certain aspects of Skyfall that are just remarkable. Like as far as good cinematography is concerned, like that's the way I want. If I were to, it's like the fight in the tower is exceptional. The stuff that happens in not Hong Kong, but the place next to Hong Kong, I love that. So that's a good example of some cinematography I like there. If you want to go back a ways in history, what's that one movie where they shot everything at the Sun Magic Hour? It was a big flop. I'm trying to remember the name of that movie. I'm sure the chat will tell me. Yeah, Vertigo was VistaVision. I'm pretty sure. I think all of Hitchcock's later works or works in the 50s were VistaVision. Yeah. What was the name of that movie? I forget. It'll come to me eventually. I've never seen it. So, but I hear that's probably a good one for cinematography. I've been kind of going more toward digital cinematography. I like the look of digital, because I work in digital. It's interesting when you're watching a movie, kind of like, oh, that's what it is. So yeah, HBO's TV app starts to lag after 5 or 10 minutes of using the menus. Oh, what's weird? I've noticed on HBO Max my image quality will decrease because it feels like it's congestion, internet congestion, and they'll come back, right? And they'll go off and come back. But I've noticed when I was watching on Amazon or something like that, I don't see that over there. So it might be HBO. Love the Red Shoes as well. Red Shoes, ironically, talking about Days of Heaven. Thank you, Hardcore Motors. That's the one I was thinking of. Days of Heaven. But Red Shoes, Chorus Line talked about Red Shoes. Yeah, Skyfall was digital. Yeah. What's his? Deakins. Yeah, Deakins has gone over to digital, which I'm fine with. Because guess what you're watching me on right now? I ain't shooting film. I'm shooting digital. Yeah, people always mistake me like, oh, you're a 24 FPS guy. You must you must hate digital. I'm like, no, Uncle Effer. I love digital. Like, this is what I do. I do digital. Like, the fact that I can now shoot 24 FPS with digital, that's cool. Because I wasn't always able to do that. Anyhow. But yeah, I'm actually a fan. Although it's snowed a lot here in Southern California. Like, we literally, if you Google it, the Hollywood sign actually has some snow-covered hills on it, which is weird, right? Like, it is unheard of in California. Not unheard of, but it's very, very rare. So I kind of wanted to go out and shoot some snow photos, but I got a lot of work to do. So I was thinking about taking my 4x5 camera out and shooting some 4x5 film, because I was showing the students the 4x5 film I shot. I'm like, oh, this is 4x5 film. Like, look at the difference in size. And I was like, I kind of want to go back and shoot. But The thing is, though, I wanted to do some like model shoots with 4x5 because I want to put people. I'm sick and tired of shooting landscapes. I want to shoot people with it. The thing is, though, I don't know if my film's still good, so I was thinking that's why I should just take the camera out and go to the mountains and shoot something, because I can just blow a bunch of film and because the stuff's like a year and a half old. I don't know if it goes bad necessarily. Yeah, global warming again in California. I mean, if it hopefully this summer will be mild. We've had a lot of very hot summers, so I think we're due for a mild summer, and I'm looking forward to that. How does Amadeus cinematography felt so standard yet so special? Well, I think Amadeus also works for the fact that it's shot in beautiful locations. I think that's what makes it feel so special. Nate Dollar, let's go shoot some 4x5. Let's do it. I just don't think I have the time this Sunday to do it. Although my next week is getting a little light because one event got moved, so I don't have any plan from Tuesday through Thursday. So I might do something on the week maybe. I'll see. I don't know. It's just a lot. It's just a long trek to get to the mountains or something. We'll see. I gotta work. Like I actually gotta make money now that my mom's. I don't think I make enough money to pay for it all, but I can make enough money so I can at least keep the hemorrhaging of the savings down to a minimum. Let's put it that way. Maybe anything I can do to help, man. Anything I can do to help a little bit pay for her care there. That'll probably be good. Yeah, Hitchcock loved VistaVision so much that he used it when shooting North by Northwest for MGM. Always bugs me how the opening shots of the titles look bad. Yeah, the rest of the film. Have you ever seen those photos of Hitchcock standing next to what's called the elephant ear camera? It's the VistaVision with the sound protection on it. I mean, it looks like it's humongous. It looks like they call it an elephant ear because it's the size. It's kind of curved, and it's just like I don't know, this wide by like this tall from the floor. It's huge. Bullet Slice says, I have a point to make with all these streaming platforms. What stops them from moving and changing scenes like TV stations used to do? Nothing. Nothing. Unfortunately, yeah. I watched, example is I want to do a review of this movie, but because no one's talking about it and it deserves a little bit of more respect, because it's so weird, is the movie Candy. All right, so I watched the movie Candy on Amazon, and I loved it because it was so freaking bizarre, and I'm a perv, so it totally works. I like, the movie doesn't take itself seriously. It's just silly, kind of campy take on sort of the male power fantasy, right? Whatever. But then I got the DVD or the Blu-ray, and I watched the Blu-ray. Like, there's 11 minutes they cut from this movie to put it on Amazon. Well, because the Amazon took like the Stars version, so the Stars cut up the movie, and then the Amazon got the catalog, and then they just showed the cut up movie. And then there's like one scene in there that was cut. And I don't know why they cut it because it's actually great. It's James Colburn. James Colburn plays a surgeon, and then John Huston plays like the administrator of the hospital, and they get into an argument, and it becomes like that argument from South Park where it's like, "I'm not your buddy, friend. I'm not your friend, like man. I'm not your man, like hombre." It just gets like just like that. It's exactly the same because James Colburn's yelling at John Huston. It's like, "Get out of here! I'm not your worker." He's like, "You don't work for me. I'm not your friend." It's just, and then he's like off in the end of the hall. He's still yelling at him, and they cut that scene. It's actually, it was a scene. It wasn't like a weird. It wasn't like a sexual scene. It wasn't anything bizarre, but they cut it, and they also cut some of the stuff that was in Candy. Some of the stuff they cut. There's a plot line about the twin of Candy's father, who's played by the guy that plays Gomez Adams in the show, John Aston, and they cut some of it so because there's a weird I guess it'd be incestual because you're a twin brother's daughter. There's this weird kind of he's hitting on her constantly. It's weird, but they cut out that, and then the story doesn't really make sense because they cut it out. Anyhow, I love Candy. I showed it to my friends, and I think all my friends hate it. All my friends hate that movie, but I need it. Well, maybe I should watch that movie because to me it's like it's so crazy. Yeah, Marlon Brando is in Candy. Marlon Brando is in Candy, and the reason why is because he felt like he owed the director a favor. The director is a French guy. I forget his name, but Marlon Brando's in it. Martin Landau. Was that the grumpy old man? Martin Landau. Is it Landau? I forget. My brain's frying up on that. The grumpy old man, the one who talks like this. You know, listen here, Dennis the Menace. You're gonna get you. That guy, right? Then they got the Beatles. Ringo from the Beatles is in the movie, playing a Mexican. I love that part about Candy. James Coburn is in it. It's a bizarre movie. It is so weird, and it's based on a book written by Terry Southern, and Terry Southern also worked on the movie Dr. Strangelove. So he's got a very, very wicked sense of humor, and everything's tinged with a little bit of pervy sexual flavor to it. So I love that movie. Because I'm weird, and I like weird. Like, it's funny. My students when my students submit video project, they think, "Oh my teacher's not going to like it because my teacher's a total square, and he's proper and all that stuff." I'm like, dude, send me the weirdest thing because trust me, I will out weird you every day. Walter Matthau, thank you, and not Landau. Thank you, Walter Matthau. Oh, listen, Felix. I've had it up to here with you. I can't do it anymore. I'm thinking of what's it called? Odd Couple. Walter Matthau was such a treasure in his day and time. He was so awesome. He hit 50. I don't know how. He might have hit 50 when he was 30 years old. I don't know when he started. Like, he just hit 50 and then never stopped aging. Like, he just looks that way he's just like boom, and then he's Walter Matthau for the rest of his career, right? If you like weird, you have to watch both TV shows, Too Old to Die Young and Copenhagen Cowboy. Okay, that's good recommendation. Like, I like weird, but I like fun weird. Like, I like. Oh, then again, David Lynch. I love David Lynch. I love when David Lynch lynches out. Like, when David Lynch is like, "Oh, I'm going to go in my now the trans folk can be after me. I'm going to go to my transcendental meditation mode," and then he starts going. It's like, whoa. But there is. I have a tolerance for weird. And it's weird. Sometimes weird for the weird's sake is not good, but weird for humorous and comedic senses is awesome. I love that. And but like, yeah, there's only so much weird for no reason because Lynch knows how to go weird for a reason. Lynch is like the best at being able to just go nuts, come up with something wild and wacky and crazy, and it still fits the story and it still fits everything that he's trying to do. Sometimes people just go weird, and it's like, okay, that was awesome, and then it's like more, okay, all right, where are you going? All right, is there a point? Or is this weird? Okay, like the movie. I've told this story before. Synecdoche, New York, which was what's his face's first directorial job. The guy that made like Adaptation, and he was one of the writers on Endless Sunshine, I believe, or The Spotless Mind, and he did a lot of work with Spike Jonze, right? So he went off and he directed his own movie called Synecdoche, New York. Now, when I saw it in the theaters in L.A. because only playing in L.A. and I heard about it, and I was a big movie buff. I wanted to support and see this thing, but I didn't know how to pronounce Synecdoche, New York. So I go up to in the ArcLight on Sunset Boulevard, and I go there and I said, "One for Synecdoche, New York." And the person's like, "Here you go." And like I didn't know anything. And then the couple behind me like, oh, I'll see that too. Cinedushi. And then they're like, oh, I'm just like, do, sit down and watch a movie. Hey, welcome to Synecdoche, New York. Oh my God. I just felt so embarrassed that I didn't know how to pronounce Synecdoche, New York. But the thing about that movie, okay, so that movie, I liked it for about a third of the way through. And then it's like, where are you going with this, Kaufman? Charlie Kaufman, thank you for pointing out. Where are you going with this? Because it just gets weirder and weirder and weirder. And it's like, okay, now he's in a house that's burning. And I used to do like Filmmaker IQ reviews back in the day. I think I've gotten rid of that channel. But I reviewed it and I'm like, it's like a 3 out of 5, 3 out of 10. Not great. I like at the end of the movie, I was like, just be over. Just be over. And I was like, now the dude's in the middle of a house that's burning. It's like, well, you don't understand. The burning house is a reference to, Truffaut or Farquhar. And if you understood literature, you'd understand what that's. It's like, no. Like, all right, whatever. Cineducci. Yeah, there you go. One for Cineducci, Cineduce, New York. There you go. Matthias is responding to my Peter Pan talk. Wendy exercises the mother role in Lost Boys, and she is the most mature character. She engages with adventures, but she also doesn't want to stop growing up. Lost Girl changes her mother dynamic. Exactly. That's the whole problem with that. With making girls in the Lost Boys. It's like, as we said earlier, there needs to be some space for boys in the media, and Lost Boys is a male experience. It's not a female experience. It's the same thing you talk about, like, do girls have a different experience going to school than do boys? And the answer is clearly yes, they do. Like, schools are obviously much more geared toward girls because boys tend to want to roughhouse and get out there. No, instead they're being forced to sit in the class and pay attention and be sociable and all that. So it's a different experience. True Film says, burning house equals Tarkovsky, LOL. Exactly. You should know that, John. You call yourself Filmmaker IQ. You don't know that Tarkovsky is the meaning of the burning house. It's like, okay. But it just gets weird and weird and weird. And so the ultimate end of Cineduce, New York, I love that. That's what I'm going to say now, Cineduce. The whole point of Cineduce, New York is basically he's given this genius grant. He's this playwright. He's a genius. So he invents this theater experiment where he has to build it inside this big, epic warehouse. But he gets so deeper and deeper and deeper writing stories. And the house becomes infinitely big and all that stuff. And it's like, I get it. Okay. The movie is falling in the same trap that the writer of the story, the movie's falling in the same trap as the character in the movie. Isn't that awesome? No, it's not. It's just not entertaining. That's the problem with it. Like I should probably make something a video, a rant about this, but like we fall in love with language. There's actually a Dilbert comic that came out that said, wisdom is just words that sound nice together. And sometimes when we think of concepts for movies, it's just stuff that we think ideas that we think sound nice together. But if you tried to execute those ideas, they're terrible. Oh, you were just kidding, True Film? Well, I took you seriously. So that's how much I know. I'm a boob. I'm watching girl scene, dude. This is how much of a literary film buff I am. I'm sitting there going, let's watch some girl scene. I'm going to watch Ow My Balls next. That's what I'm going to be doing. I'm drinking a big gulp. I'm your typical American slob, man. Totally. All right. So anyhow, what was I saying? I don't know. Cine douche. Yeah, so that's what I was saying. I'm talking about ideas that sound good on paper because those ideas sound good. Like I want to make a movie where the audience is rooting for the main character, but at the very end, I want to reveal that he's actually a terrible human being, and that'll teach the people, like, yes, don't trust your heroes. They can be awful at the very end. Like, wow, that's amazing. You're gonna subvert expectations. That's awesome. And like, then they go make it, and the people are like, oh, this sucks. I wonder what major franchise did that. All right. Yeah, Matthew. So you're talking about the nonsense of the girls. I mentioned that. However, I think the real reason why it's about boys is much deeper than just the fact that the girls are too clever. I don't think it's just it's the fact of the matter is the story is about a boy, about manhood, growing up to become a man, not because it's not about growing up to be a woman. It's literally about the experience of boys, and now that's unfortunately not the case anymore because we can't have those spaces. Oh, God, you're going to get me down that road. Have we seen any new Mandalorian or Star Trek Picard? I dropped my Disney Plus, so I can't watch Mandalorian. But for God's sakes, why? Season 2, Mandalorian, I liked it. It was fine. And it felt, oh, Luke now shows up, takes Grogu to go be with his people. The story is over. And now there's like season 3. I'm like, oh, I wonder how they're going to do this. I mean, Grogu's back? WTF? What is this? What is this? Like, no. And then I've seen a bunch of stuff about how it's like there's an explanation. Grogu doesn't want to join. I don't know. It's like, really? I'm not gonna watch Mando. Now, also, I'm not gonna. I like Star Trek. I just don't love enough to watch Picard. And it's on Paramount. I don't think I have Paramount. It's like I got enough to watch with HBO Max. So I just haven't got into it. I haven't been watching Last of Us either because honestly I don't like zombie movies. I'm just over zombies. Just not my thing. Douche, New York goes back to 8.5 and what Fellini felt like mental block. Here's a very unpopular opinion. People are not going to like me for saying this. I don't like 8.5. I've tried watching it like 3 or 4 times. Every time I watch it, I just feel like this guy's a pampered prick. I'm sorry. I just feel that way. Every time I watch it, I'm like, you can't finish your movie. Boo-hoo. Oh, you got such a... Oh, boo-hoo. You've got all these women craving your attention. Boo-hoo. Ooh, so sorry for you. I'm sitting here like, like I get mental block, of course, but like if I had a studio breathing down my neck and I've had like multiple women craving my attention, I get my shit done. Sorry. I don't know. Certain kinds of movies like that. Like that's another thing. I refuse to watch anything Spielberg related. Like I don't want to watch Spielberg documentaries, and I don't want to watch the movie The Fabelmans, because to me, I'm super jealous of Spielberg. I'm going to be honest. Let's just call it what it is. I am super jealous of Spielberg. Super jealous of Spielberg. We talked about that music video he did for Mumford and Sons singer, whatever, Mumford. Like, I am super jealous. Like, I wish I had a career that any way resembled a 0.1% of what Spielberg was able to accomplish. And then he's going back and reliving as, the Fabelmans, and it's going to be like, oh, his childhood, and he did this, and like, I know I'm not seen the film, so I could be wrong about that, but I'm going to watch it. If I watch it, I'm going to burn a hole in my heart because like I am so unbelievably jealous of Spielberg. I said it. I'm not going to lie. I am so jealous. And like I've gotten in trouble. People's like, well, you don't have you think you're as talented as Spielberg? Well, no, I don't think, maybe not necessarily as talented, but I possess some percentage of the talent of Spielberg. Some percentage. May not be 100, but it may be like, I don't know, 5, 10. I think I possess some talent. that Spielberg. But then again, it's not a matter of like, you have percentage of talent. It's like he's just been able to create an industry. Basically, the entire 80s and 90s belonged to Spielberg and Lucas, and those guys. But he was able to just have this amazing career and life. I mean, I don't know his personal life. Honestly. But yeah, in a way that, like in Bullet Sciences, I'm the same way with James Cameron. In a way that Cameron doesn't, Cameron's not. I think Cameron's a little bit different, but Cameron hasn't been able to start like a studio the way that Spielberg kind of owned a lot of the studios. Like he basically say, yeah, I got an idea for a ghost movie. You make it, and he makes Poltergeist. And obviously Poltergeist. Spielberg was on Poltergeist a lot. Tobe Hooper wasn't necessarily not Tobe Hooper. Tobe Hooper's somebody else. Toby something or other, I forget. And Spielberg just, man, I'm super jealous. I'm sorry, I'm super jealous. Yeah, Aaron Taylor says, as talented as Spielberg when in 1978 or 2023. I'm not jealous. I'm not jealous of James Cameron, but I get what you're saying. LL, James Cameron is a hometown hero. Yeah, I'm a little annoyed with James Cameron the way he kind of rounds his mouth about 24 frames a second. I don't like that. I get where he's coming from though. I understand his position, but I'm sick of people like telling me like, oh, James Cameron hates 24 frames. Like, no, he doesn't. But anyhow, yeah. I'm just super jealous. So I've gotten in discussions like I said this one time. I said, if you gave me 3 weeks to deliver a short film, and you gave me all of Spielberg's people, all of them, every collaborator Spielberg has, give me John Williams, give me what's his name, Chivo? Is that Chivo? He's his cinematographer, or whatever. Who is the cinematographer is? Give me that guy. Give me the production designer. Give me every resource available to Spielberg, and give me 3 weeks. I will deliver you a better movie, a better short film than Spielberg could create in 5 hours. Give me 3 weeks, give Spielberg 5 hours, I will give you a better film. And people are like, oh, you silly man. What makes you think you can do that? I'm like, I have all his people. I have 3 weeks to do it, and I have time to think about it. I mean, I'm not as experienced as Spielberg. So he gets 5 hours, give me 3 weeks. I'll deliver. I'll guarantee I deliver a better movie than Spielberg if you give me the exact same people, but more time, and he has less time to work with it. But people laugh at me like, oh, you're so full of yourself. No, I'm not. I gave myself 3 weeks. He only has 5 hours. That's the opposite. I love to see interview people. The problem with the interview people is that no one watches those. I have like a few interviews on my channel, but like they perform so badly. Because honestly, okay, and I guess we talk about it now. YouTube is not about learning about filmmaking. YouTube is about entertainment. And so that's why the drama bait stuff of Peter Pan. That's why this video is titled Peter Pan. I talked about musicals for as long as I talked about Peter Pan, the trailer for that. But if I said, oh, I'm going to talk about the Music Man, no one would watch it because no one cares about the Music Man. So if I'm interviewing industry folks, no one cares about industry folks. So the views are always going to be like 1,000 people, 1,000 views. When they could be very, very interesting interviews. Like I did, the best interview I thought I did was with the guys that do background ADR. Like I loved that interview. But no one watched it because no one knows what background ADR is. But it's a cool idea. So if you don't know what background ADR is, so when you shoot actors and background actors, they're not making any noise. They have to like act silently. So these guys, what they do is they come in and they create groups of people, and they will do ADR for the background. So that way you have custom made like background actors. A scene would have like a restaurant scene, so they'll do their little mumbly things and they'll record them in groups. So it's sort of similar to the way it's presented. So yeah, I love it. No shade, but can you say what you imagine you'd do better than Spielberg? Well, if I'm just presenting that as a conceptual thing, but I'm basically saying if you gave me all the people that Spielberg has, that I could deliver a more interesting movie than he can in 5 hours. And by that I just basically mean that I would take my time and I would figure out what shots I would try to create. Maybe even say like, give me the same script even. Like give me the same exact script, but Spielberg only has 5 hours to figure it out, and I have 3 weeks. I'm just saying that Spielberg is not like the genius. Not everything he's a collaborator. So like, if you gave me John Williams' score, if you gave me the production designers, if you gave me all the tools and resources that he has at his availability, I too could make something. And and on top of that, I'd bet you every person on this board here, on this chat, if you guys may not have as much experience as I do. Some of you have more experience, right? But I guess I'm betting all of you guys could deliver well if you had those resources that he has. Within reason. Somebody might be a terrible director on here. I don't know. I'm not going to say. But I bet a lot of you too could deliver just as well or better than Spielberg if you had the time and the resources. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, do you know the Film Channel? I know of them. I haven't actually been in contact with them at all. The problem is like Film Courage it's a lot to me. It's a lot of just talking. And it's not, it's interesting for people that are in the industry kind of, but it just feels like a lot of, just kind of on and on and on and on. That's just my opinion. Although I was looking through my Twitter, and a long time ago, I guess back when I wasn't using Twitter, my business partner was using it. Chris Gore had emailed us and tried to set up something so we could talk about his documentary. I think it was a documentary about G4 TV. But speaking of like Film Courage, like if you notice, anytime Chris Gore is on Film Courage, like the numbers are way higher because he's always talking about like something that a trigger topic that people talking about wokeism in film or something like that, or he knows how to drive certain titles to get more attention than like say I'm going to interview the editor of this movie whose name you've never heard of, kind of thing. Of course, Spielberg is great, but man, can he get cheesy? Oh yeah. I was like a comment that someone I missed earlier. I think Spielberg is fully sincere in his art. It just happens that audiences love his work so much. A perfect mix of sensibilities and zeitgeist. Yeah. And Spielberg had a great knack for picking projects. Like, except for 1946. That was not a good one. But he just has a knack for it, And, like I'm not necessarily so jealous of like a Ron Howard. Although Ron Howard's pretty good too. Like I remember reading a Roger Ebert review of Ron Howard's directing in Apollo 13. And he said like Ron Howard knows how to hit the ball straight down the middle of the fairway. He's not trying to go for distance. He's not trying to go for, do a weird, crazy hook and try to land the ball here. It's just boom, straight down the middle, and it's right down. That's his thing, right? So, but yeah, look, like the fact is, my childhood is mostly Spielberg movies. Like that's the thing that to have that power to create basically my childhood, to so much power that you have the MPAA having to create the PG-13 rating system just because of you, that kind of thing. Anyhow, like I don't hate Spielberg. I'm just jealous as F of him. That's the thing. All right. Let's see. Let's comments here. I love it when a director has that freedom. The worst part, here's what's scary, right? And I'm going to be brutally honest here. In my experience, you need someone to be your opposition when it comes to directors. Directors should not be allowed to free reign. I know it's counterintuitive, but there needs to be someone that they answer to or that they can bounce off of. Not necessarily like oppositional as in like creating a lot of friction, but there should be someone that counters it. You know what I mean? Like there should be someone that says, Yeah, I don't know about that. And then they, you know, and that maybe that's all there is. It's like, I don't know about that. What do you, you know, I think I like where you're going, but I think you should try something different. It's just somebody to be that voice of reason. Because, like I said earlier, like the filmmaking and all performance arts are so collaborative that if you just let somebody just trounce through with their own ideas, eventually, you know, maybe they'll get one or two right, but eventually they're just gonna burn. Yep, Ron Howard came to the Roger Corman School of Acting, or not acting, School of Filmmaking. Yeah, because he did a lot of the Roger Corman stuff, and he's also, you know, he was a big child actor too. You know, we talked about Music Man. You know, Gary, Indiana. Starting to go into Daffy Duck territory. Did Ron Howard masterclass? I don't know. He's definitely an actor's director because he was an actor first. I'm jealous of the scenes for filmmakers at the time that Spielberg, Lucas, Cameron, Coppola, and De Palma came up. Yeah. Largely working on each other's films, like the whole film school crowd. Let's throw in there John Milius, too, you know. John Milius was part of that USC film school clique, basically, in Hollywood. And that seemed like a good time. That just seemed like, you know, it's like one of those things. Well, to be fair, some of YouTube feels like that. It's like, I got a great idea for a movie. Let's go and shoot it. And they would go and shoot it, right? And they would make it happen. Of course, they had big, you know, studio money behind them. But in some ways, YouTube is like that. If you got a great idea for a sketch, let's go shoot it. Let's just go shoot it. And you go and shoot it. And you may put together and, well, you know, I honestly think that old school Hollywood films is sort of kind of dying away a little bit. At least it's changing for sure. But like the new wave of YouTube and, you know, whatever the thing that we're doing right now is happening. We gotta stop sitting around bitching about stuff and go out and do it. I'm talking to me. All right, I'm jealous. I love your big studio history stuff you did. Yeah, I do too. I'm gonna go back and do some. Also, I think cinematography breakdown would be a good thing. Yeah. In terms of an area you could go with interviews with industry people. I have a friend that just did his name is Jay Holben. If you want to check out a book, he did it called the Cine Lens Manual. I haven't bought it yet because it's like $200. But if you want a complete, encapsulated, total understanding, like a book that includes every detail about cine lenses, check out Jay Holben's, I think it's Cine Lens Manual. Like it's like super thick. He spent like at least 5 or 6 years writing that thing. Him and a guy named Prost, who is ASC. They both write for ASC magazine. But it is. I mean, I know him. I've known him from MySpace days, and he's hired me for some stuff, and I've gone, and I actually did an interview with him, but I never released it because I felt it was too personal, or it just felt a little like it didn't have a point necessarily, and it just felt like from when I was trying to cut it, it just didn't make sense how I was trying to cut it, so it didn't quite work out. But it was a good interview. It's just more like two friends talking kind of thing, which probably would have back in those days when I was making the interviews, I was like, my interviews need to have a point. Now it's more like, well, it's just people talking. You should just release it as a podcast kind of thing. Yeah. Oh, did you get the book? You had your hands on it, but it is pretty pricey. Yeah. Well, it's like a college textbook almost, really. Oh, alternative to the book is the YouTube channel Media Division. I'm not sure if Media Division is the one I'm thinking of. One of the channels, I was like, well, I liked them for a while, but they got a little bit too. I got a little argument with them about these guys, yeah. I got to them. No, that's not the. Is that the same one I'm thinking of? Where he was arguing about how large format changes the framing or something like that. It was just like I don't think you understand how this works, kind of a thing. Yeah, immediately. Yeah, the thing with him is I feel like also he just gets a little too into clickbaity cinematography stuff. So yeah, you know what it is. He's a way bigger channel than I am. Like the biggest video here is 396,000 views for 2 months ago. The f0.3 impossible lens. It's like, well, that's cool, but it honestly doesn't interest me at all. Have I seen Nerdwriter's video? Why 3D movies are not immersive? I don't really watch the Nerdwriter. I got like some serious I got annoyed with this stuff. But I mean, curious to see what he would say on that. Ilford 4x5. Do it. I know. I'm hanging out with you guys chatting, and I gotta edit my video that I'm doing for this channel, and I gotta do some layout, press layout for a program for an event coming up. But yeah, 4x5's calling. 4x5's calling me. I think I might have some film loaded in the film trays. I don't know. I gotta go in the bathroom, close the door, and make sure all the lights are off, and check to see if there's film in there. It's been such a long time. All right. Let's see what else. That said, is the best job experience. What are you talking about? I realize the most important factor of creating art is money. Ideas are cheap. Convincing talent to join you is hard without funds. Yeah, that's the purpose of money, right? Like money is there to help you do things. Otherwise, you have to convince people to do things. Now, that's what always bothers me about, if I were to make a movie, and I've got another thing I want to do, finish my comic book. I got some ideas of how I could streamline the process of my comic book. But that's the reason why I wanted to do it as a comic book, was because in order to make this movie, I would need to hire 10 actors. I need to find a bunch of locations. And in order to do that, how do I juggle 10 people and a bunch of locations, and maybe possibly set stuff that I'd have to build without some serious money. And there's no way. I could try to convince them, but how do I convince them? Well, comic book would be a way how to do it. So that's kind of the reason why. All right. Working with the Arri LPL mount and sensors that the LPL signature primes, your framing does change slightly. I forget what his point was, though. I forget what my objection to what he was saying, because there was something where it was one of those things where he was the effect he was creating like a multiple, like a super large frame. And the way you do that was you would you take like a 8x10 frame, is 8x10 frame with a digital back, and what that is it just allows you to move the camera, capture this portion, then move it down here, capture this portion, like that, so you could stitch them all together to create like a massive frame. And it was one of those things where I think he was comparing two shots, and they didn't match for some reason. And he's like, it must be something to do with the lens. I'm like, no, it's not the lens. It's probably something, you move something when you did it differently. And he was like convinced it was the lens that was doing it or something like that. But it wasn't quite that idea. I don't know. It's been a long time. Yeah. And certainly felt more satisfying than the fake it till you make it job I had. Okay, gotcha. What do you think the next leading theme in Hollywood movies? With superhero genre slowly dying off, assuming some other big thing will come along. I don't know. I honestly don't know. If I knew, I'd probably be making it and making lots of money. But I think I said earlier, like I feel like American New Wave might be happening. I think something's going to happen. I don't think necessarily the indie scene will necessarily pop off. It's hard because the market is so fragmented. Like you're not going to make like a My Big Fat Greek Wedding. If you guys remember that movie, like that was such a huge deal, that movie, and it spawned now there's like 4 different, I don't know, there's like 3 or 4 sequels to it. But that would start off as an indie movie, right? I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think you're going to make an indie film in, Wyoming or something like that, and all of a sudden it's going to become the biggest thing. You might be able to make an indie film in Wyoming that managed to get views. How you're going to monetize that is still up in the air. Like, I don't know how can you make money doing that. gay or genderless superheroes in musicals will be the next big thing to fall or to fail. Yeah. I think, well, for reals, the pushing LGBTQ has always been the LGBTQ plus has always been part of the indie realm, and I've heard Chris Gore talk about this too. It's like it's been relegated because that's people that make those movies. There's a huge the indie crowd is the people that make movies that mainstream movies won't touch, right? So LGBT has always been inside the indie circle. So I mean, I don't see that changing. Like that movie I watched the other day, girl scene. That's definitely in that genre. I forget where I'm going with this, but I mean, the fact is, there is a market for traditional or for lack of a better term, cisgendered heterosexual relationships in movies. Like, when is the last romantic movie that came out that the girlfriends want to take their boyfriends to? It's been a long time, right? That maybe both people. I don't know. I was watching like Music Man, and okay, we'll get personal here. Like I haven't been interested in somebody like romantically for years, but when I'm watching Music Man, and I'm seeing the relationship, I could feel that. Like that's the great thing about movies for me is the way you can feel the emotions of the characters on screen. That's the power of movies. It's a sympathy. It's an empathy machine, as Roger Ebert once said. And like watching those movies, and I thought back to like being young, being like infatuated with somebody, because my heart has gone cold and dry and barren like the deserts of Arrakis. But watching movies where you can feel a character fall in love. When's the last movie that came out that characters fell in love in? I don't know. It's been a while. I miss it. Going back to the old technical stuff, some DPs hate lens breathing. They sure do. I think most DPs don't like it. So, yeah, lens breathing does create more in anamorphics. Yeah. All right. I think that horror and animation will be back. Horror gave us the writers. Oh, let's talk about this. Horror gave the writers excuse to write offensive characters, and animation had shown to be very successful all around. Well, before we get to that, did I see RRR? Yes, I did. I wasn't a big fan of RRR. I didn't particularly like it, honestly. I mean, I loved. Take it back. I loved some of the dance sequences. Some of the dance sequences I thought the best thing I've ever seen. One of the best dancing sequences I've ever seen. I'll give it credit for that. But the overall story I didn't care about. And frankly, at the very end, it felt. Let's just put it this way: if those people were white, this would be considered a racist propaganda film. Because the ending was so like jingoistically militaristic. Like it's over the top, like in a way that even like Top Gun isn't as militaristically jingoistic as the ending of RRR. Like the ending was so, and I'm going to catch flack because I don't understand the culture. I don't understand that Telugu or whatever the heck it is. I don't understand the relationship between the people there and the Indian people and the Indian factions and all that. I don't know any of the history of that. But to me, like the last part felt very felt like something out of Leni Riefenstahl's work, if you know who that is. That's Hitler's documentary maker. It gave me a very uneasiness about it, the ending. So, yeah, that's why I thought on RRR. Today I'm gonna be dangerous today. I'm gonna get canceled by everybody. It's too late in the stream. No one's watching anymore. Anyhow, it's interesting how the studio system forged a no-nonsense mentality in auteurs like John Ford and Howard Hawks. For example, Hawks said that a good film is one that doesn't annoy you. Interesting. Well, RRR is not technically a Bollywood movie. I've had that discussion forever. It's technically a Tollywood, right? Because it's Telugu. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's not Bollywood. Bollywood's India. Telugu is like northern India or something like that. It's just believe me. Then people say like, "Oh, you've got to watch the Telugu original language, John. You can't watch the version that's the original language is like Hindi." Or no, I don't know. It's Telugu. Yes, Telugu is the original language, but they put it in Hindi, and then the Hindi with subtitles. But you can't watch that version. It's like okay. I'm not familiar with your politics of your country and all that stuff. But I agree. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't have a problem with the portrayal of the British Raj, right? Like I get it. I'm okay with that part. It was a little over the top. I forgive it though. However, the ending dance sequence was had some uncomfortable military imagery for me. The kind of sort of like it felt like authoritarian muscle men movies. Basically, look how, because a lot of like strong arming, planes flying through the skies, flag wavings. Like if we did that, but American, and it was like shot of Dwight D. Eisenhower and Colonel Powell, you bet there'd be problems. You bet they'd light up Twitter. Yep. Bollywood, Mumbai, North K, Dia. I mean, no offense. I don't understand the politics of your nation. And I'm not going to pass judgment on it. It's like I wish most people wouldn't pass judgment on American politics that don't know anything about American politics. I'm not passing judgment. So, anyhow. Don't forget, count for comments on horror and animation prior to RR. Sorry for interrupting. The blackening. So let's talk about this. I had this idea. Matthews was telling me about this too. Did you guys see the Corridor Digital anime AI thing? If you haven't, we can pull up part of it. Let's see here. My YouTube. So it's interesting because I showed my friend about this too, and we're talking about Corridor Crew or Digital Anime. There it is. So this thing's gone crazy. It's got 2 million views in over 6 days. It's insane. Let me get the website here. I'll show you a little bit of it. If you haven't seen it yet, it's Corridor Crew. Now, I'll be perfectly blunt and honest. Corridor Crew is not my thing. I am more about like directing and I'm more about directing a story. And Corridor is more about effects. So they're not my thing. I'll be honest. It's just the truth. Why isn't it pulling up? But I respect them for being really, really good at doing effects. Why is it not coming up? Oh, that's weird. Copy. One more time. So, what they did was they took browser YouTube. Yep. They took Stable Diffusion and created this anime from the story that they created from the okay, go. Why is it not going? That's so weird. It won't pull up the link. Let's try it. Let's take it from here. Copy. I'm sure I'm boring you guys right now trying to get my computer to work here. All right, one more time. Control V. Okay. That is so bizarre. Oh well, I guess we're not watching it. Maybe I close this one. Let's just let's put it on YouTube. Let's see if that works. YouTube.com. But anyhow, so I was showing my friend this and we were kind of impressed. It's just not, the browser thing's just not working anymore. That's bizarre. All right, well, it is what it is. So check it out, Corridor Digital's anime rock, paper, scissors. So they use Stable Diffusion to create anime styles for an anime. I want to show you this. I can to pick apart some stuff about it. Sorry, apologize here. Let's just close that. Let's do that. Let's close that. Add input. Go to web browser. Control paste and hit OK. Nope, it's not working. Fine, don't work. Be like that. All right. So they did this anime. I would suggest checking it out. At first glance, if you were just to watch the whole thing, holding your hand, your screen at arm's length, and look at it, it's not bad. It's the animation style is not bad. However, you start picking it apart, you start looking at it from a more of a critical eye, it's riddled with crap. It's riddled. Like there's stuff, and I was going down the road here with Twitter. Like there was an old anime artist, and his comment was his tweet was, "No comment," and all the replies just came in and like, dude, this looks awful. Because there's issues with like color patenting bouncing up back and forth. The eye color changes. There's weird shadow frames. The in between frames are smudgy weirdness to it. It looks good if you are not trying to look for the art in the animation. If you start looking at the art, then you notice every single shot has issues, like everything. And as Matthew was saying, Quarter Experimenter still has a lot to go and fine tune. It's full of what they call AI jank. There you go. Even after a lot of hard work and fine tuning everything. Exactly. Now the argument is like, well, these are early days. These are early days. The technology will get better. Here's my comment on that. You don't know that for a fact. Like, you don't know that it will get better. Maybe it won't get better. My money is going to bet that it won't get better because the way the technology works does not encourage it to get better. And by what I mean by that is the process by which it's using is unfortunately doesn't really work well for animation. Like again, I go back to this idea that if you're an artist and you're tasked to draw a hand, your brain understands what a hand is, and your hand can basically visualize what your hand from different angles. But what we're asking these specific programs to do is to take a bunch of images of hands and sort of average them out and guess what would be the most appropriate place for the hand to go, that kind of thing. So now sometimes you get lucky, and and it works, and it looks perfect. There you go, you got lucky. But to do that now, 24 frames a second for thousands of seconds, it's not the right model for doing it. Now, could they improve that? Probably they will. Obviously they will. But this particular process, this kind of stable diffusion stuff, I don't know if that's the right tool for this. Maybe it needs to be built in a if you could have the AI build it in a 3D software and then use that 3D software to animate, it would make more sense. I just don't think that stable diffusion is the route. And as another proof, it finally came up. You finally came up, YouTube. All right. Here we go. Skip ad. I can show you a little bit of this right here. Finally came up. So there it is. Let's go away. How do I put some audio here? So these are fine because they're mostly static images, right? Static images work fine in animation.
Father always said that you were the more artistic one.
And you can refine the static images to make it work, right?
You're my twin brother?
But notice
The
like the
creator dealt
jankiness
us
of the
the same
shadows
hand
here.
of cards.
And what's going on
Actually,
down here with
better.
this? It's very
You missed the
distracting.
funeral.
I've only come for the part that matters.
I will not
All right,
share
hey, just
the
get rid
crown.
of this
You
miss.
will never wear it.
I've dedicated my life to governing, and the king.
So where that hair just popped out of nowhere, that kind of stuff.
I've dedicated
Like there's a hair here, but it just
my life to governing.
it just materialized. It just blurred itself into existence.
You will never wear it.
I've dedicated my life to
Yep, you
governing.
see it? There it is, right there. It just popped out of nowhere. Stuff like that, you know. And I guess you could sit there and you can babysit all that stuff and get it to work perfectly. But I don't think. Okay, so my evidence. Do you guys know we had this thing called Cartooner in After Effects? Let's see if I can find it. Let me go in here. Let's see. Cartooner. Oh, oops, did it wrong. Back to me. Now back to you. Cartooner, filmmaker. Oh, come on. Doesn't work. Okay, type cartooner, filmmaker. I don't know if I still have it IQ. Let's see, do I still have that video up? All right, so there was this plugin in After Effects called Cartooner. And basically, if you remember the movie Waking Life, and Waking Life came out, I think, 2002, 3, something like that. Basically, it's rotoscope animation. Oh, this thing's audio's still going, isn't it? No, it's not. It's off. Cartooner came out in 2003 or so. And if you were to say back then, well, these are early days, John, Cartooner will get better. It hasn't gotten better. Cartooner is still the same effect it was in 2003. Like 20 years later, it's still okay at best, right? It still does make a 2D cell animation, but it still kind of looks patternly. Or painterly. It's not quite hand-drawn rotoscoping, right? So I think that's the same situation with AI art. Like, if I were to bet money, I would say it will get better in some respects, but it's not going to get as good as people are thinking it's going to be. However, on the other side of AI art, you're going to use AI art for all kinds of things. Like AI art will work itself into a lot of stuff where you may not necessarily realize how it's being used. You're actually looking at it right now, right? That background is AI art. I asked Midjourney to create a London night shot with Big Ben from the perspective of Big Ben. It didn't quite give me what I thought I wanted. I wanted a big shot of Big Ben, like from Peter Pan. I wanted that Big Ben right in the middle, but I was like, that's good enough. So that's how I ended up with that background. I think that's where AI art will fill the niche of stuff that isn't necessarily hyper important, that you can just, some filler will work. AI art, perfect. And then the artist will always have to do something with it. So the artist will still be important. I don't think the artist is going anywhere. I just don't see it. Yeah. And Matthew says, and Core to Crew is far from one click button anyway. They say it showed it require a lot of hard work and fine tuning. And that's where, guess what? Guess who's doing that? It's the artists. People are always worried, oh, the artists are doomed. The artists are doomed. Who's going to pick up the pieces when the AI art draws 6 fingers in a hand? The artist is more important than ever. The artists are going to be the artists are ones who control the AI. So I'm not afraid of AI. I think things are going to change fast, but it's going to be interesting to see how it all. I hate saying that. I hate saying it's going to be interesting to see. Needles. I don't want to ever say that. I want to say that these tools are going to be exciting to use. How about that? They are going to be exciting tools. How are you doing, Nate? Nate's Film Tools. Welcome. Yeah. Have they been able to automate replacing all green screens of flowing hair with the team of SFX editing every single frame yet? Yeah, there's that example of, I think, Guardians of the Galaxy, where they're shooting on blue screen actors with blue skin. You're like, you know what they do? They just farm it out to some third world country. And I don't mean that in a bad way, like India or Bangladesh or whatever, where the artist can work for $30 a day, and that to them is a good living wage. They just sit there and they draw rotoscope all day. And can you imagine, that's what they do with all those 3D movies that aren't necessarily shot in 3D? They have to be rotoscoped. Like, no one shoots 3D anymore. It's all rotoscope. Some people always overrate technology and underrate the value of humanity. I saw a guy saying that someday AI will have full catalog of all possible artworks that could ever be made. Yeah. I mean, you think about like how much that would be, though. How big that catalog would be, right? It'd be like, just think about like let's just take a 1920 by 1080 image. Those are 3 million pixels. 3 million pixels times, each pixel can be, let's say each pixel can be one of 256 colors, which is low, right? Because realistically, well, true color is like what, 16 million colors? So 16 million colors, and there's 3 million pixels, and you basically have to it's like factorialize that. Like, oh my God, that's just, there's no point in even thinking that big a number. I think Corridor was talking about the democratization of animation, giving single artists a way to tell stories they couldn't before. Far from perfect, but everything has a beginning. I agree. I agree. And again, as you notice, it's the artists that have the power. You're not replacing artists. The artists are the ones with the power, right? Now, obviously, like I said, there are problems with it. And I don't think the problems will go away. But let's say that's your AI art for a demo reel, and you walk into like Netflix or whatever animation studio, like, I got this great idea for an animation. Here's my thing, and I used AI to kind of fill in all the gaps, right? That's a good start. It's a good way to start. Sell it, right? I'm not trying to say I have beef with Corridor or anything like that. I think it was cool to watch. But to say it's a finished product, and I know they're not saying it's a finished product, but I don't think it's gonna replace. I think the term I heard before was that we overestimate technology's impact on the present. We underestimate the technology's effect on the future. So I think we're overrating the effect that this technology has on modern art. I think we're overextending it. However, we have no idea what's coming. Like it could be a whole different vibe world and all that kind of stuff. When the Reface app came out a few years ago, I thought, oh great, now we won't be able to see the stunt actors' faces. But that was my genuine response. Japanese animes now farms them out to sweatshops in Korea, China, and Southeast Asia. Japanese animation salary is still low, but the animations are better than ever. Yeah. I mean, I think The Simpsons is edited in Vietnam, right? Or drawn in Vietnam. And it has been for like years, right? Anyhow, so that's what I want to talk about, that part. I mean, it's cool. I like the style and all that, but yeah, when you get down to the animation, it just gets a little funky. It's a little funky, but don't remember when we talked about Disney, how you thought Disney was going to take over everything back when they bought Fox. Same here. The AI art's going to arise. Don't fall into single move thinking. Always think about the antithesis. What's going to come to oppose it? What's going to come to fight it? There's always going to be something to butting heads with something. So to think that AI art is going to emerge and is going to kill off all the animation, all the animators. Yeah, that's single line thinking. It's Korea. I thought it was Vietnam. I don't know. I could be wrong on that. Digital Domain, co-founded by James Cameron, is probably the biggest visual effects company. 4 locations in China, 3 offices in North America. A prawn Midjourney would sell subscriptions like cupcakes. That's what Stable Diffusion can do. Yeah. I'll be honest. I've tried it. One thing you've learned really quickly about, let's say, nudity in Stable Diffusion is it understands nudity if the person is standing. And if you thought drawing hands was bad for the AI, wait till you see it draw some other things. Oh my God. Scariest shit I've ever seen. Oh, good Lord. Yeah, AI does not know how to draw other stuff. We just leave it at that. Let's just leave it at that. I feel dirty if I go further with this discussion. You know those, if you've ever been to like, if you ever seen those old fashioned like butcher shops where they got the sausages hanging in the window? Yeah. Okay, let's just leave it at that. All right. I've got to wrap this up pretty soon. I've been on what for like almost an hour and a half or 2 hours. I don't know. It's been a while, haven't we? What are we at? In 2 hours and 34 minutes. Oh my God, I gotta wrap this up pretty soon, and go do some other stuff. And I'm just glad I caught Donnie Pearson, who's back from his shopping trip at the supermarket. H.R. Geiger. See, H.R. Geiger stuff was less disturbing than what AI would draw, like way less disturbing. Like I said, it's weird. Okay, never mind. It's important, though, to build the world in which even so-called mundane and tedious tasks aren't all erased for the sake of automation. It's what Miyazaki defends. Do you know about solar punk? I never heard of solar punk. That sounds like fun. Yeah, I thought Disney was going to screw everything up. Never thought. Well, I think a lot of people were scared that Disney was going to just envelop everything, and that's what I was trying to fight back from. It's like always think about the antithesis. All right, Matthias asked, because we have to have a frame rate question here somewhere. What is the pull down of 24 into 30? So here's how you do the math. All right, so how many times does 24 go into 30? 24, what's a common denominator? 6, right? 6. 24 is 4, and 30p is what? 6 is 5. So you have to spread 4 frames over 5 frames of video. So you go 1, 1, 1, 2. So 1, 1, 1, 2. 1, 1, 1, 2. 1, 1, 1, 2. 1, 1, 1, 2. 1, 1, 2, 2. And that would be really obvious if you do 24 over 30, because that 2 happens every 4 frames, right? Or every 4 frames. Or every 5 frames of 30. You have that little hiccup. Every 5 frames of 30 is 1/6 of a second. So that's 6 times a second. You can see. I think that's. That's 2 times a second. 2 times a second. So the hiccup would be. That's the frame rate of the pull down. And then 1 to 2 is a little more annoying. So that's 24 over 30. Which is honestly, unfortunately, is probably what you're watching right now on this stream, because this is a 30 FPS stream, and I'm showing you 24 frames a second. All right, so that's that. Is that Wonder Woman in the background? Yep, that's Wonder Woman. Yep, and then we got ScarJo over there, Batman, and so forth. At the rate of which AI programs are improving is the real shock. I don't think anyone can predict what But the question, left-hand puppetry, is: have we hit, or have we hit have we hit the plateau or not? Like we can either go up linearly, we can go up exponentially, or we might have hit the top. You don't know. Yeah, 24 into 60 is 2323, but the question was 24 into 30, and that's 1112, 1112, 1112. Am I a drummer? No, I'm not. I am a trumpet player. So I go da 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 da. Yeah, eighth notes and eighth note triplets. Da 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 da. Would be the little pops. That's the thing. People act like 24 frames a second is like, oh, that's a bunch of slideshow stuff. That's like watching a slide. No, it's not. Try to count 24 frames a second. You can't even do it. Is like 6 frames a second. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's 6 times a second. Now do that 4 times as fast. That's 24 frames a second. That's only 6 times a second. Something like that. I don't know. Maybe it's closer to 8 times a second. But it's still very, very, very fast. Anyhow. I saw some horror artists saying they're excited about potential AI. AI AI is very good for creating very disturbing images. Anyhow, all right. Well, that's it for me. It's now 3 o'clock my time. I better go and get some other work done. It's getting cold in the studio too. So, all right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. We had some fun. Hopefully, hope you learned something. It's Louis Rossman's thing. Hope you learned something today. All right, guys. I am going to take off. I need to go to the bathroom because I just finished all this drink. It needs to come out the other end. All right, making sure we get to the end here. You catch me with another comment, Matthias. What is it this time? What are you asking me? I'll just read it over here. 24 pull down fit to 30p because of HBO Max's YouTube channel. Yep. That's what it is. Yeah. I mean, it looks fine if the motion doesn't happen right on the right time. All right, let's wrap it up. And I will see you guys next week, next Saturday or Sunday. Probably Sunday because next Saturday I have a lot of events happening. All right, guys. We shall see you later. Fade to black!